We are tonight's entertainment.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Excellent!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Movie Mania podcast, where we talk films past, present, and future. I'm Sherman Trey White of Podcast Media, and joining me is the man, the myth, the legend, kicking us off in 2016, Bandit Incorporated. Do-do-do-do.
What? Yes.
Hey!
Here we are, finally.
We
2016. Good God
Yes,
almighty.
sir.
Amazing.
Wow.
And may I say, Trey,
Yes.
you sound spectacular. You sound
Yes.
like honey being poured into my eardrums.
That's... I can hear the police knocking at your door. Sir, if you're not no. I've been doing a lot of vocal exercises. You know, Yoda really takes a lot off your throat. So
Yeah.
lots of honey tea. But no. But how was your?
He's got a new mic, everyone. That's what I've got.
That's
what I'm talking about.
I was building to that. Yeah, I was gonna sit there uncomfortable for a few minutes first, just to be like, should we call somebody? No.
Sure.
How was your holiday?
Really, really good. I had a great time. And in fact, something rather special happened. Not to do with the holidays, but I officially have been able to quit my day job, and I am now 100% a full-time YouTuber. That is my job, which is awesome.
How about that?
Because
Everyone clapped to Bandit.
woo! Feels so good. So good. Because before I'd reduced my work to part-time, but the channel's built up enough now that I could finally cut the cord and get rid of my horrible day job that I hated for years.
Right.
And it's great. It's so good after all this time.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you're able to quit your day job. Yes. Slowly shrinking the economy, Bandit. Good job. Yes. Well, then again, it's Australia, so I don't know how the economy works over there. Because we've been going at this for 18 weeks now, if you count all the breaks we've taken off.
Yeah.
So, wow, 18 weeks. Can you believe that, Bandit? 18 weeks. Okay. Well, my holiday, since we're going to move on now, I had a wonderful Christmas. I got all the nice little presents. I got a new microphone, first of all. It was wonderful opening that up from Mi Familia. I also got a Kylo Ren lightsaber. It was a fancy Force Effects Kylo Ren lightsaber, and I say
saw you with that, yeah.
Yeah, and I say was because look, I'm a nerd. I'm a 16-year-old nerd who lives not in his mother's basement, but in his own bedroom across from his mother. And when I'm bored, I will go around and I will pretend that I'm Kylo Ren swinging around. And spoilers, I will pretend that I'll be slicing up Finn every now and then. But I did this in Houston with my cousins. I went down to see some family on Christmas, and my cousin's also a massive nerd, but he's much more into comic books. So we had, we were play fighting for a while, like we were 5 years old again, because we do it every Christmas. And it ended up going up against, okay, so I'm Kylo Ren, and he's the Flash. And I said, I know. And I said, okay, whatever you do, cousin, do not grab the lightsaber, because I know you want to. He said, okay, I got you, cousin. I'm like, great. We kept going. And so he's like, I'm using the Force to move as quickly as the Flash does, because that's all you have to fight the Flash.
Yeah. But Kylo Ren can freeze people, so you can.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm trying to do that, but Flash is moving so fast, is that his arm's going in slow motion, and I'm about to jab at him with my lightsaber, and when my cousin grabs the lightsaber, sticks it between his arm, and runs really quickly. First of all, he broke the rules of the Force, and I was very mad at him for that. Secondly, we heard a snap in the lightsaber. This is Christmas evening, and I was so mad. And so my lightsaber still partially works. I can actually pull it out here. It's sitting behind me. Oh, this makes good radio. Let's see if it's on here. Do. And let's see if it picks up on the mic. Now, if you hear that is my Kylo Ren lightsaber. But what you don't see, is that it's broken in half, and so only half of it lights up now, which once again makes me a sad boy. But that was my Christmas. Yeah.
You've really got me thinking about Kylo Ren versus the Flash now. That'd be interesting.
And I told all my friends,
the Flash, he can vibrate and separate his molecules so that the thing passes through him. So he might be able to do that with a lightsaber. That's what I'm saying. And so I told my friends, I know, you guys are such losers. I'm like, nah, man, we were getting into it. And I'm like, you should have seen when Batman got through it. Batman had Luke Skywalker's, lightsaber. It was fun, but until the lights were broken, which is we just sat there and watched Rick and Morty. Okay, so that's it. So for everyone, as usual, there's time codes down in the description below, both on iTunes and on the YouTube vid. So if you want to jump around between stuff, you can.
Yeah. And so before we get into our topic of today, which is the 10 best movies of 2015, Bandit, let's get into the movie news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. Cannonball!
Yes, movie news. Okay, so Bandit, not a lot of movie news today, but we got some stuff. For example, The Force Awakens. A couple things have happened with this movie. For one, I think it was the fastest to reach $1 billion. It hit $1 billion last week.
Is that what it's at now? It's at $1 billion.
It's actually at 1.4 billion, I think. But
man.
yeah, it's pushing fast. And domestically, which is here in North America, I don't know. Actually, I think it's just U.S. and Canada. But it's going to beat Avatar by this upcoming Monday.
Wow.
in terms of the domestic box office. And Avatar was at like 740 something, I think, and Star Wars is on its course to beating that because it did another $85 million.
So it will be the biggest movie of all time
in America, at least. Yes.
Okay,
yeah. I don't.
Because Avatar was the top one, wasn't it?
Yeah, Avatar in America was at like 740 or whatever, and worldwide it's at 2.8 billion.
Good on you, JJ. You can ride this for the rest of your career now.
I made Star Wars. Like he's trying to get a coffee, and they're like, "Sorry, we're out of espresso." He's like, "I made Star Wars." You know? And then it was like,
don't you know who I am? I don't know why he'd suddenly become Australian, but
yeah, he takes off his sunglasses. Like, "Excuse me, I'll go park in the handicapped spot. You can bring the coffee to my car. I'll be in the handicapped spot. I'm J.J. Abrams." You know, and he's like walking away in slow motion. That's how Michael Bay orders coffee.
But he'll probably get for the rest of his life. People will be like, "But you know, why did Kylo Ren have the cross guard?" He'll be like, "Shut up! I don't care."
They're forever gonna get. He's like, "I thought it looked cool." I don't know. He's like, I mean, that's why it's like the story of Sam Jackson, the purple lightsaber. You know, He says, you know, he's like, I wanted to be able people to see me in the Jedi sequence, so they gave him a purple lightsaber, and I was like, great. But it's Sam Jackson, so what are you gonna do?
Sorry to interrupt, but I just remembered I've actually got a little bit of movie news. It's belated, but at the moment, The Revenant is out.
Is it also media? Sorry, it's a pun. It's a YouTube pun. Belated media. Keep going.
Oh, right. Yeah, very good. The Revenant is out at the moment, but a little while ago they actually had to do some damage control for that movie because this crazy rumor went around.
Oh my God!
Saying that Leonardo DiCaprio gets raped by a bear in it.
Yeah. All right, so Bandit, so you've seen The Revenant. Does Leonardo DiCaprio get raped by a bear?
I haven't seen it, but no, he doesn't. But I think it was something like it just sort of started as a joke. Someone was like, because there is the bit in the trailer where he's like crawling on all fours and the bear's like running up on him like from behind.
Well, yeah, because he's trying to crawl like, from this bear about to eat him.
And but
that's almost as stupid as the Luke Skywalker turning evil in The Force Awakens. That's almost as stupid.
But it picked up so much traction that they actually had to release a statement and say, no, Leonardo DiCaprio does not get raped by a bear in The Revenant.
Leo like sitting like in his Wolf of Wall Street style yacht, and he's reading it. And he's just like he calls up the director and he's just like, "You guys didn't do something in the editing, did you? Right? Because I mean, I hadn't seen it yet." And they're like, no, Leo, you don't get raped by the bear in the movie. He's like, oh, I'm just making sure because that wasn't in the script. We want to do some contract changes here.
Yeah. Anyway.
Huey Armendariz just made a comment on a picture on Movie Mania that we're gonna touch onto later, involving indie films, but we'll get to that later.
Sure.
Sorry. But I heard about that raped by a bear nonsense. Speaking of forceful negativity, The Force Awakens has received a lot of negative backlash in the last 2 weeks. Just recently, I saw quite a few reviews in which case, people were calling it uninspired. The words like Mary Sue were being thrown around to describe our characters.
Thanks to Max Landis. Yeah.
Well, I don't think
a lot of excellent points, very good points. Good to hear it from a professional's mouth.
My thing with Max Landis is I respect the heck out of Max Landis. I think he's a great writer. I think what he's accomplished in Hollywood is pretty great. I think he's a personality and a half, but and I think he came from a good place when he was talking about it because it's his opinion.
Yeah.
And it's the way he interpreted the movie. That being said, people have taken what he's said and have just started throwing the word around without actually knowing what Mary Sue is. So here's what I'm gonna do, because I haven't actually done this yet. I'm actually gonna go to I'm actually going to dictionary.com as we speak and looking up the term Mary Sue and see what pops up. Bandy, your thoughts?
I could just tell you.
Oh, sorry.
It basically means a character who's just inexplicably good at everything.
Yeah, that's what I heard, but I just wanted to make sure I got my definition right.
Yeah, he put out, he called her like a Mary Sue, and everyone thought he was being sexist or something, and he's like, no, it doesn't mean anything about that.
I mean, there are people who are being sexist about the movie, but he's not one of them.
Yeah. But it was like, Max Landis, he's obviously, like, I like him a lot. I think he does good work too. He's obviously got a very, very high opinion of himself.
I think those
clearly in love with himself.
Sometimes those are the best kind of artists who realize, who's like, I can do no wrong, so I don't do any wrong. If you want to live the life you want to live your life, but don't get upset when people get mad at you. So.
Yeah. But I like that. I mean, he's a writer, but he's sort of out there. People know him, And I'm all in favor of people like knowing the writers in Hollywood more, because I don't think the writers often
Lindelof
get as much respect as they should. Yeah, unless it's Lindelof. Yeah, because a lot of the time we always give like a movie comes out and we're like, oh, that director's amazing, but the director didn't write it. Give the writer his due as well.
Yeah.
Have you found it?
Oh, the definition of Mary Sue?
Yeah.
No, because you said you were going to tell me, so I was
that's what it means. All right.
Yeah, and I've heard that. It was just like, someone who's inexplicably good at everything, and if you watch The Force Awakens in the first, not necessarily a first viewing, but like in a specific kind of context, it can seem like she is kind of a Mary Sue. She does know, she does know. I don't want to say everything. I mean, not right away. Like she knows how to fly the Falcon. She's a pilot. I don't see how her knowing to be a pilot makes her Mary Sue. She knows. I think she bypassed the compressor in the hyperdrive or whatever, which I thought was just a nice joke, because the hyperdrive's always been an issue in that movie, in these movies. She knows how she learns. She doesn't automatically know. She learns how to use the Force. And I think that's partially Kylo Ren's fault. After watching it another time, something clearly gets unlocked inside of her when Kylo Ren starts digging around in that brain of hers.
Yeah. They explain everything, but I mean, she's a pilot. She can repair everything. She can fight hand to hand. She can fight with a lightsaber. She masters the Force in a matter of minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, she's a Mary Sue. She can do everything.
I don't, but I think that people use the term Mary Sue, I think, as a negative in a sense, as a way to describe her as she's a perfect character.
Yeah.
And I don't think Rey's a perfect character. Rey has her. I think when people think of Mary Sue, they also think of someone without flaws.
Yeah. The issue
and I think
with Mary Sue is the audience doesn't feel tension because they're so good at everything. It's like Superman. No one ever believes Superman's going to get hurt.
Superman, I will give you, Superman in certain stories can be a Gary Stu, which is a male version of Mary Sue. Pick up people, not you, Bandit, but the audience. Yeah. He is a Gary Stu in certain storylines. Especially ones that like Kryptonite, whatever. Just because that's who Superman is. But I think with Rey is, and again, spoilers for Force Awakens. If you haven't seen it at this point, I'm sorry. Rey is one of these characters who she taps into the Force. And she's good at things, but she's not a perfect character. She has flaws. She has a naivety about her.
I think she's as close to being a perfect character as anyone can get, though. But look, I do like. We don't want to open up that can of words again, but I do think having her be a Mary Sue to that extent is going to hurt the film later on, because it's like, either she keeps winning everything in the next couple movies, in which case it's not interesting. Or she loses, but then even if she loses, we're going to be like, how does she lose when she was already so good in the first movie? She's been training, she's gotten better. So no matter which way they go, they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. So,
I don't know about that. Well, because like the people...
Luke is not a Mary Sue or a Gary Stu or whatever.
Well, how do I put this?
He needs a lot of help to blow up the Death Star. Han Solo has to help him.
Rey gets help to do things, but I'm trying to develop my point here because a lot of people in this industry are much better at formulating their opinions than I am, and I figured that out by watching all my old reviews. But people, what am I trying to get at here? I lost my train of thought. Oh boy!
But you're saying that Force Awakens has gotten a lot of hate over the last couple of weeks.
No, I was trying.
That's
okay,
the news story we're talking
I
about. Sorry, folks. It's been a week. We're a little bit rusty getting back into the swing of it.
I figured out what I was about to say. It's that Rey is, she's not. I lost it again. Oh well. All right. Yeah, Force Awakens has gotten a lot of backlash, and I don't think it's necessarily justified. Because I was telling Ben earlier before we started recording, maybe people should just, if people are going to have this certain kind of, hey, wait a minute moment about The Force Awakens, maybe people should stop reviewing movies when they first come out then and counting those as actual reviews. Because if you are then going to go back and have this certain kind of, because the broad appeal for the first, I'd say 4 to 5 days of when The Force Awakens came out is that it's great. It's wonderful. It's return to the franchise. Yeah. Some were saying the best since 1980.
We said, that's the honeymoon period, but it seems the honeymoon period is over, and now comes the negative criticism.
But there have been movies this year that were also highly anticipated that did not get the honeymoon treatment. That there were ones that like but Avengers.
Hey, I don't feel sorry for Force Awakens because it's going to be the highest grossing movie of all time.
Well,
I don't think we need to defend it. We don't feel the need.
Transformers was the highest grossing movie of last year, but that's beyond the point.
Yeah.
So I think that there is
there's something the Chinese fault, isn't that right, Trey?
I think it comes to the fact that there had to be something awesome there first before people started picking it apart to pieces. The reason Age of Ultron didn't have a 90% of Rotten Tomatoes the first weekend it was out was because it wasn't a 90% of Rotten Tomatoes movie. And people were picking it apart. People had issues the moment they saw it. Force Awakens, when it came out, was at a 94%. And it's still at 94% of Rotten Tomatoes, but it has since had this backlash that I don't think is very justified because you've had to have liked it and really enjoyed what you were watching in the first place.
I think it is justified. I mean, because there's a lot of people saying...
That's because you had issues when you first saw it, though.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people saying, see, there's all these problems, sure, but it doesn't bother me, and therefore they don't exist. No, they do exist. It's fine if it doesn't bother you, but, you can't pretend like it doesn't have
My
flaws.
thing is that people are calling it a bad movie. That's where my issue lies.
Yeah. But that sort of goes with being on top, isn't it? New levels brings new devils, as they say. When Avatar was at the top, which it soon isn't going to be anymore, because Force Awakens is going to knock it off. Remember, there was a lot of backlash for Avatar? Titanic as well, when that was at the top.
People weren't calling it the best movie of all time when Avatar came out.
Yeah, but if you go back and look at Avatar, it's the hipster thing, People got to be
Avatar. Well, because Avatar's not a very well-made movie. Filmmaking-wise, it looks great, but there wasn't really much anything else of essence in that movie.
Story-wise, I'd say it's kind of on the same level as Force Awakens. They're both pretty simplistic stories.
Simplistic doesn't mean bad. I was getting to the characters though. Yeah. The characters and the theming.
Simplistic doesn't mean bad. Fury Road.
That's when See, but then when I complain that I'm like Fury Road just has a simple story, then I get emails and tweets and Facebook comments about like how I hated Fury Road and how I wasn't and how oh god.
Yeah.
So and there's also this movement coming around about people that were like, and people are like, well, when Force Awakens first came out, if anyone were to make a bad review about it, people would be attacked. And and so now it really does seem to kind of be the reverse. Like I'll go on a Facebook film group.
Way, yeah.
And I'll post and be like, I love Force Awakens, here's why I loved about it, wasn't this great? And then I'll get 30 comments saying, well, it's wrong because of this, 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 and this. And I'm like, hey, screw you. I can have my opinion on a movie. All you little fart boxes that like Jurassic World, I let you like Jurassic World. All right, I crap on the movie because it's a terrible movie in my opinion. But I'm not trying to hate on you because you like the movie. Sorry, go ahead.
I know. Well, I think it's just backlash because, people who, have issues with it get sick of all the reviews that are just nothing but positive all the time. So they want to throw in their 2 cents and it swings the other way. But hey, that's the internet.
Well, even
Look,
even my
we're
review,
talk
I
more
thought
about
it was
this
great.
in the top 10 list. Should we move on?
That's true. Yes, we should move on.
we don't want to talk about this too much.
I figured I remembered my Ray comment, but I'm going to write it down because we're going to save it to Force Awakens.
Okay.
All right, Bandit. All right, next up, movie news. Christopher Nolan, the kind of maligned nowadays Christopher Nolan in many respects. People haven't loved his last couple of movies. Like I've even gotten like Inception backlash. Like Screen Junkies have like subtly torn Inception to pieces, and it's kind of annoying. But okay. But his next film has been announced. It's called Dunkirk. I think I'm saying that correctly. It's going to be a World War II movie. Yeah, a World War II movie.
Interesting.
Starring Kenneth
Imagine all the
Branagh.
philosophical discussions they can have in a war movie.
That's what I was worried about. It's starring Kenneth Branagh and Tom Hardy. So, and Mark Rylance, who was in Bridge of Spies. I know I haven't seen it, but yeah.
Is it Dunkirk? Was that World War One?
It might have been. No, I thought it said World War II.
Okay.
Look, you're the history buff, so this is you.
Well, I'm sure we'll find out when we see the movie. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, that sounds interesting.
It'll be like a story about the guy who refilled all the ammo back at the base, and it'll tell like a philosophical story about how he's discovered. I don't know. But it's not going to be your typical war film. Is what I'm concerned with.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Yeah.
I love Christopher Nolan. I loved Interstellar, but with me, like, if this is going to be a war movie, I want this to be a war movie. And Chris Nolan doesn't just do simple genre films. Even Dark Knight, he turned into a theming project. So,
yeah. Let's call it now. Do you think Tom Hardy will have a dead wife by the end of the movie?
Ooh, someone's going to have a dead wife by the time those credits roll.
Yeah, either a dead wife or a dead daughter or something like that.
Dead sister. There's going to be a dead chick that was close to him by the end of the movie. I'm calling it now dead chick. I'm also calling confusing ending, and I'm calling ambition. That's what I'm calling. So
yeah,
it's going to get, and people are going to tear it to shreds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he might do it Interstellar, where like the wife doesn't die in the movie, but the movie starts with her already dead. So
that's what I'm saying. By the time the credits roll, we're going to have a dead female character who was close to our lead.
Yeah.
So,
because British Robot Man, that's the way he brings emotion in.
And yet, when he does an actually emotionally driven film, people call it, stupid and the love is too much. So I don't see what people want anymore in these days. Yes. It's like the Star Wars argument. They make the prequels and they try stuff new. They try new stuff, and everyone called BS. Everyone called beef shank. But I'm like, okay, well let's go back and do Force Awakens and make it like New Hope, and everyone just called beef shank. So let's just stop making Star
like
Wars.
Max Landis, where he's like, people don't like original ideas. That's why American Ultra failed. No, it failed because it's not very good.
That wasn't my intention at all. I was just calling people confusing. Oh my god, don't. Original ideas, and look. I've talked about original ideas on the podcast before. There's an original movie released every week, but no one goes to see them. That's the problem. Sorry. Okay, I think that's all the movie news I have here. Bandit.
Yes.
Did you have some homework?
I did indeed.
This week, each one of you has a homework assignment. You're going to go out. You're going to start a fight with a total stranger. You're going to start a fight, and you're going to lose.
My homework for while we was away was I had a few different things. A lot of people wanted me to watch One Punch Man. I watched that, and I also thought, since there's 2 westerns out at the moment that both have numbers in the title, Ridiculous 6 and Hateful 8, I'd watch both of them.
Yeah.
From the genius mind of Quentin Tarantino to the cinematic syphilis that is Adam Sandler.
Cinematic syphilis. I'd go more film gonorrhea, but cinematic syphilis is equal.
Well, let's start with One Punch Man. Well, it's been a while since I've watched any anime, and it was kind of a refreshing change of pace because I've forgotten how different anime is to like a lot of Western stuff. Just the whole way that the story is told is different. But for those who don't know, it's a Japanese cartoon called One Punch Man about this superpowered guy, and he's superpowered because he's so strong that he can just kill everyone with one punch. And it's basically every episode, like, the villain shows up and they go Super Saiyan sort of thing. They're like Hulk out with muscles, and they tell this huge story of like their origin and all this sort of stuff. And he just like goes boom, and just hits them and they explode. And that's pretty much how every episode ends, with him just killing the bad guy in one punch. And the weird thing is, you think that would get really boring, but it actually doesn't. It actually doesn't, because there's these cool sort of meta jokes mixed in with it, where like the bad guy's like, all the pollution on this planet condensed, and then the Earth gave me consciousness, and I'm here to punish humanity for poisoning the Earth, and it goes on, and then like One Punch Man will interrupt and he'll be like, too long, shorten it to 20 words or less. That origin is too long.
That origin is too long.
Yeah. He actually says that
like
to a couple of them.
Nolan. Sounds like a reverse Christopher Nolan. It's like, nope, now this makes too much sense. No, shorten that origin.
It's actually like, so you think because he just punches people that explode, it gets boring, but it actually doesn't, because it's got all that. And it's actually because he's the most powerful superhero on the face of the earth, and there's all these cyborgs and giants and all this weird stuff. But and everyone's always trying to figure out, how did he get so strong? Because everyone's like, been experimented on or whatever. And it sort of builds and builds and builds over these episodes where everyone's like, how did you get so strong? And he never really says. And then it sort of culminates in this one episode that I just watched, where he's got this cyborg guy who wants to be his sidekick, and he's like, tell me your secret, Sensei. How did you get so strong? And like the villain there is like saying the same thing. Yeah, how did you get so strong? You beat my most powerful monster and all this. And he's like, all right, I'll tell you. He goes, well, I get up at 6 a.m. I do 100 push-ups. I do 100 sit-ups. I do 100 squats. He goes, and I jog for 1 kilometer every day. And I do that every single day, no matter what. He goes, I just keep doing it. If my elbows start making those weird clicky sounds when I'm doing push-ups, I just keep going. He's like, then the next thing you got to do is diet. He's like, but... my stupid phone's gone off. Shut up, phone.
I thought you had a dog. I'm like, when'd you get a dog?
No. And then he goes, then it's diet. A banana for breakfast is good. And the guy, it's basically just, he's like, I just kept doing that, and that's how I got this strong. And they're like, you are so full of it. They're like, that's just regular exercise. It's not even that intense. How did you get that strong? He's like, well, seriously, that's all I did. I just trained. And he goes, because he's bald, and he says, I kept training, and then one day my hair started falling out. You train until your hair falls out.
You train until I'm already halfway there. Hey, a bald man myself. I'm halfway there.
And you think like, you're like, oh no, it's got to be something else. But he's like, no, that's seriously it. And I thought about it, and I'm like, I actually really like that, because in a lot of superhero comics and stuff like that, there's always. You get bit by a radioactive spider or whatever. Or
you're the daughter of Luke Skywalker.
Or you're just the chosen one or something. Like,
Immaculate
very
Conception.
few superheroes have their powers because they actually earn it. It's like they sort of like win the genetic lottery or something.
Well...
And I actually like that... I know everyone's going to say, no, Batman works for it, but he inherited billions of dollars, so it's not the same. But I actually kind of like the idea that... I think it's a much better message for like kids rather than, if you're born with superpowers or whatever, is like if you're just lucky enough to be born with skills. But this is kind of like, no, just work hard. And I'm like, yeah, I like that. I like that message. So One Punch Man, if anyone's out there wants to check it out, highly recommend it. Give the first pilot episode slack, though, because it's really kind of weird in that Japanese way. It's basically like the whole episode is like a series of beginnings. It's like it introduces the character, then it goes back, and then it introduces him again. Then it goes back and introduces him again. You're like, what? It gets better as the episodes get on. It becomes more like stories. So yeah, highly recommend One Punch Man. Fantastic.
Okay. Well, I will definitely check it out.
And it's Japanese, so you have to read subtitles. But after a while, you don't even really notice the subtitles anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, moving on. Ridiculous 6 and Hateful 8. Ridiculous 6, it sucks.
Yeah, Hateful 8.
It sucks. Although I got about halfway, I think it's over 2 hours long, Ridiculous 6. And I got...
Unacceptable.
I know, for a comedy, that's really long. Especially for Adam Sandler comedy, it's really long. I got about halfway through, and I was like, how much longer is this? And it was... and I realized I was halfway through. I was like, oh, so I had to go go take a break, go get a sandwich, get a cup of coffee, and then come back and finish it.
Just let that sink in, guys. Bandit putting in the work to make himself a sandwich and get some coffee is more entertaining, brings him more happiness than sitting through another hour of an Adam Sandler movie.
And bear in mind,
are you listening, Sandler?
And this was on Netflix, so it's not
which is like
so it's not like I'm paying extra for it. It's already on Netflix. But I mean, you know me, I'm a big supporter of movies being on Netflix. But I think if this was in cinemas, people would be much more angry because they'd be like, I came out here, and wasted 2 hours of my life and all this for that.
Yeah.
But since it's Netflix, you watch it from home, you're a bit more lenient. Yeah, it's mostly really, really awful. It's basically Adam Sandler is white guy raised by Indians.
What's his name again? Like Whitefoot or something like that?
I think it's White Knife or something.
White Knife, yeah,
And
something like that.
It's unintentionally hilarious in that Adam Sandler's character is kind of got... He's basically like... He's kind of got superpowers. Like, it's done in a... I think it's supposed to be a funny way, but it's kind of like...
it's just kind of awkward.
Yeah, in the first thing... Yeah, like someone will shoot a bullet and he'll throw a knife and it will cut the bullet in half in midair and the bullet will miss his head because it'll go either side of his head. Like, stuff like that. And
which could be cool, but...
Which could be cool, and it could be funny. It's never really explained how he's able to do this stuff. So, just because the movie wasn't very interesting, I started writing down different stuff. I started playing these games to keep myself entertained, right? Okay, I'm going to write down all...
How many times the gun's been pointed towards your head, and how many times you've had to put it back down?
Well, this is how I kept myself entertained watching it. I thought I'll write down all the different superpowers that Adam Sandler has. Okay, he has super speed... Because, someone draws a gun and it'll go slow motion and he'll run over, slap the gun out of their hand and run back. And then they'll be like, what just happened? So he's got super speed, he's got super strength, he's got invisibility, he's got Spider-Man's climbing powers, where he can just sort of scale walls without any ropes or anything. Mind reading, I'm not making this up, he can read people's mind. Impossibly accurate aim, like I said, he can cut a bullet in half with his knife. And he can jump so high that he can virtually fly.
Oh my god! Oh
That's
my
Adam
god!
Sandler's powers.
Bandit, Adam
Sandler
Sandler is a prequel era Jedi.
He is.
He's a prequel era Jedi. They both suck. Oh my god! It's like poetry. It rhymes. It's all there.
And it's basically so he rallies up. He meets his father, and then his father gets kidnapped by this gang. So the movie is he rounds up all the other lost sons that this guy had scattered around, forming the Ridiculous Six, and they go and rescue their dad. And they're like, he's like, oh, we're going to need money to do that. And they're like, well, we'll only rob from bad guys, so we'll only rob other gangs. That way it's okay. Then they immediately forget that and go rob a few banks, but who cares, right? And it's just... I couldn't... It kind of reminded me a little bit of Stallone in The Expendables, because so much of the movie is actually trying to make Adam Sandler look good. He's got all these superpowers. They make a point that his wife is the best-looking woman in this Indian tribe, and there's
I don't buy that for a second. I don't buy that for a second.
Oh, then there's a number of scenes where other women are like, "Ooh, he's so hot." Everybody else in the Ridiculous Six are complete and total losers, right?
Yes.
Also that Adam Sandler can look better. And they've got, like, Jacob from Twilight. You know that dude? He's in it?
Yeah, he's playing a simpleton. Yes.
Yeah, he's, as they say in Tropic Thunder, he goes full retard in this. But I thought, Adam Sandler's character is supposed to be raised in Indians. You've got an actual Indian guy there. Yes. Wouldn't it be better if he's the main character? Wouldn't that make more sense? And if you want to give him superpowers, Jacob's got like the abs and everything at least to go with it. So, but no. That all gets shelved so that Adam Sandler can look good. Even Terry Crews, this massive jacked up guy, never does anything. So everyone's sort of sidelined trying to make Adam Sandler look good. It's completely infantile humor. There's I laughed twice. Once with a donkey that does like projectile diarrhea. That was funny. God. I laughed another time because there's a gang where, as like when you join the gang, you gouge out your right eye. They've all got like eye patches on their right eye. That's sort of their thing or whatever. And there's a guy who joins the gang, but he's already got like his left eye is already blind. So given the spoon to gouge out his right eye, and he's got this whole conversation, which like it's pretty funny at the time. He's like, does it have to be the right eye? He's like, I've already lost my left. They're like, no, we're called the Right Eye Gang. It has to be the right. And he's like, I understand the logic, but, you know, they're like, hey, rules are rules. That was funny at the time. It doesn't sound funny when I'm describing it, but
No, look, man, listen.
But yeah, look,
I'm so done with Adam Sandler.
It's pretty terrible. But since it's on Netflix and you got nothing better to do, it's worth to watch, I suppose. If you just want to, it's fun to try to pick the moments that you're supposed to laugh at. Like I numbered those as well. There was jokes because there's like joke pauses. 12 of those, 19 times when Adam Sandler is referred to as being awesome or does something awesome. 12 times I counted that I think I was supposed to laugh or something. So stuff like that's fun. But anyway, forget about that.
Or you can just put on a full season of Daredevil and have a blast. Sorry, no, keep going.
Yes. So yeah, Ridiculous 6, that sucked. Hateful 8, that was awesome. Good old Quentin Tarantino. Because I'm so excited. I'd heard some of the rumors going in was like, it's good, it's not Quentin Tarantino's best. And actually, it did feel like, I'd agree it's not his best, but it's certainly very good. And
when your best is like either Pulp Fiction or Inglourious Bastards, like it's okay for it not to be your best. You know what I'm saying?
you can't repeat that. But it's basically there's two bounty hunters. One is Kurt Russell, whose bounty hunter is this woman who's like chained to him because they did that back then when you're transporting your prisoners. They're always like chained at the wrist, the two. And there's Samuel L. Jackson, who's like got a couple of his bounties. He killed them all because he doesn't bother bringing bounties in alive. And they basically they meet up and they get caught in this blizzard and they have to go into the whole thing sort of takes place in this shack out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a blizzard. And it's all these characters are sort of stuck in there. And Kurt Russell suspects that a couple of the people who are in this little, it's sort of like a bed and breakfast place. He suspects that some of these people are actually there to try to free the prisoners. So it's like a game of Cluedo, of trying to figure out who's the bad guy sort of thing. It's kind of like a combination between Django Unchained and Reservoir Dogs. Because Reservoir Dogs was a group of criminals in this warehouse and they're all trying to figure out who the undercover cop is. This is kind of the reverse. It's a group of bounty hunters and they're trying to figure out who the bad guys are. And, of course, in Quentin Tarantino style, it explodes with blood and guts and all that sort of stuff. And
it sounds amazing.
It is.
I'm so excited.
Really good. It's a little bit slow to get going, but it picks up.
That's Quentin Tarantino for it. Like, is the dialogue keep you going? Is that what I'm? That's.
Oh yeah.
Because with Tarantino, like he can do a movie where it's 3 hours of people in a room because that's dialogue.
Well, I think interesting thing is though, after seeing it, because Samuel L. Jackson's great in it, but after seeing it, because. You know, in Quentin Tarantino, all his movies take place like in the same universe. So like the Vega brothers and that, and there's people related and stuff like that. So after I saw it, I thought to myself, I wonder if Samuel L. Jackson is supposed to be Django. Because Django took place 2 years before the Civil War. This takes place 7 years after the Civil War. And how long did the Civil War itself last? Like probably 10 years, I'm guessing?
4 years.
Only 4 years?
61 to 65. Thank you, 8th grade history.
Holy cow.
Yes.
I thought with all the talking about the Civil War, I thought it would have lasted longer than
millions died, and brother fought brother, and lots of slavery. So, of course, we talk about our Civil War, Bandit.
Okay, all right. Well, so 7 years one side, 2 years, 4. So that's what, like...
that's
how long
15
is that?
years.
That's about 15 years after Django,
Yes.
so... Okay, so age-wise, it doesn't make sense. But anyway, I wanted to figure it out, and I went on Google, and it turns out this actually was supposed to be... Like, Quentin Tarantino started writing this as the sequel to Django.
Oh, that'd be so
and
great.
Samuel L. Jackson was originally Django, and it was going to be called Django in White Hell, because they're in the middle of a blizzard,
God.
you know, all the snow and everything. And,
Maybe fix the title, but I would have liked that.
Yeah, I would have too, because I thought about it, and I was like... Because Samuel L. Jackson's character he's a bounty hunter, like Django. He served, when the war started, he was obviously fighting for the North, because Django would not fight for the South. Of course not. And he distinguished himself in battle, and then afterwards he got back to bounty hunting again, and there was a bounty on his head, so other people would try to get him, and there's this whole story. And so it fits. It is Django. But Quentin Tarantino changed it so that he's not Django, because he thought... The point of it is he wants it to be that when everyone's stuck in this cabin, you don't know who you can trust. But if Django was there, you'd be like, oh, well, he's the good guy. You know,
Gotcha.
so
And I careful not to ruin anything, but
yeah.
if I guess I had to ask, how good is because who was your favorite character in the?
Oh, Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah.
Okay, I was just
Kurt
making sure.
Russell was also really, really good.
Okay.
But I think Samuel L. Jackson.
Does anyone feel wasted in their role, or does everyone kind of get their moment of?
Everyone gets their bit. Maybe Channing Tatum is wasted.
I didn't even know he was in it, so maybe that's
Both
kind of why.
literally
Okay,
and figuratively.
okay.
When the bullets start flying, let's say he gets wasted. No.
All right. All right. I because I'm really
That's
excited.
not a spoiler.
I'm
you know everyone's going to die in a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
how every movie ends. But
Either everyone dies or one guy walks away limping in the snow.
Yeah, but there's one particular bit where like you're kind of on Samuel L. Jackson's side up to a point, but then at one point he tells this story about how he brutalized this one guy who was trying to hunt him down, and after he tells that story, you're kind of like, I'm not sure about you, Samuel L. Jackson. Like you're not sure.
Well, that's
if he's
that's
a
the
good guy.
Pulp Fiction thing. That's the Pulp Fiction thing. Like
Exactly.
you're following these guys, like you're following Jules and Vince. And you're like, these are cool guys, they're out there doing jobs, and then you realize they hunt down and shoot people from Marcellus Wallace. Like you hunt down, you realize that this is what these guys do, and they're, it's not like Django where like they're hunting down slave owners.
Yeah, but when you watch it, like after that scene, after he describes that, you think if that was Django telling that story, it wouldn't sit right with you because you'd be like, what happened to you, Django? So I think it was probably a good move that he made it, that it wasn't a sequel to Django, but still is interesting nonetheless.
I might just do a double feature because Hateful Eight just opened here and Revenant comes out on Friday. I might just do a double feature of Hateful Eight and Revenant if I can sneak my way in. I'll buy two tickets to Road Trip, and I'll just sneak my way in.
Pirate Bay, if you want to check it out.
I'd like seeing movies in the theater.
But it's in HD as well.
Look, I won't lie. I may have chappied Star Wars for the fourth time today. Just
really?
I feel like watching it again. Yeah. Look, I've already seen it 3 times, but the movie has at least $30 of my money. So
that's also on Pirate Bay. It's a dodgy bootleg copy, but
I don't know how to use Pirate Bay, and besides, the one I'm using is dubbed over in Indian, so that's okay. But I just watch it for the Luke Skywalker scene anyways. Spoilers, I guess.
No worries. So that was my homework assignment. Hateful Eight, awesome. Ridiculous Six, terrible. One Punch Man, really unique. Should check it out.
Okay, great. Well, then Bandit, it's time to get into our favorite movies of 2015.
And now, our feature presentation.
So, Bandits, we have collectively put our 3 lists, which is your list and my list, and the listeners' list that was collected after I took all the comments and the likes that you guys did on Bandit's video and used it and totaled them all up, and you made a list out of you guys. And we put all these lists together to combine and make
the official
movie
top 10 of the Movie Mania podcast. Is that too complicated? No, but thank you for asking.
No, it's fair. It's fair. It's just, and if you guys have any problems, I'm like, well, this is what the masses voted for. So,
well, if
Twilight
guys
makes it on the list, I'm sorry.
If you guys go to the Facebook page or the Twitter page for the Movie Mania podcast, you can see you can see my pick, Trey's pick, and how you guys voted your pick. And here we're going to mash them all together and reveal the official top 10. So if you want to follow along and compare all the differences, you can do that.
All right, so let's start with number 10.
Your favorite movie of all time, Trey.
Yes, we are talking about
World.
Terminator Genesis. Jurassic World. Yes.
You hated Jurassic World so much. I didn't have
I had a total of 8 minutes in this movie where I was just like, oh, that's really cool. In a 2.5-hour movie, I had like a collective total of 8 minutes where I thought something good was happening on screen. And the more I think about it, the angrier I get.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And take out the whole thing with the high heels, because every movie has something stupid in it, and just get over it. But taking the high heels out of the equation, the characters are dumb. The plot is dumb. Nothing makes sense from the rules they establish in the universe. It does a terrible job of following up the original Jurassic Park, whether you like the movie or not.
Yeah.
And there's nothing special about this movie. And it's supposed to be Jurassic Park.
I find it fascinating that you hate it so much, because like for a lot of the reasons that you don't like Jurassic World are a lot of the same reasons that I complain about with Star Wars. But for some reason, in this case,
like Star Wars and Jurassic World,
you're really bothered by the things, but then you're not bothered by them in Star Wars. Why is that?
Okay, well let's tackle my biggest issue with Jurassic World is that I don't care about what's going on, and that's because things are because stupid things happen in movies all the time. It is incredibly stupid that the Joker would devise a plan where he would get himself caught, and then all this stuff would happen. That's really stupid. But it's amazing to sit there and watch because the characters are on there and the theming's wonderful and Dark Knight's a fantastic movie. But in Star Wars has a very similar plot, well, a very similar backbone to A New Hope. In how certain events happen, the Death Star, it is stupid how they both know the Death Star, but history repeats itself. It's stupid how we have had multiple dictators in history, sometimes for the same country, but yet there are characters in the movie and there are situations in the movie and it's shot well and it's shown and it's presented to us in such a really effort was put into the performances and of everyone on screen. And so you care about the characters, and so that way you care about the stupid plot. With Jurassic World, these are just archetypes and literal. I felt like I was watching little projections that I was supposed to put myself on the screen so I could care about what was going on, but I didn't. I didn't fall for the trick, Colin Trevorrow. And don't do this episode 9 either. I'm watching you.
That's right. He's directing episode 9.
All right. I don't want
one of your favorite Star Wars trilogies of all time is going to be directed by the guy who made Jurassic World. Don't
Jedi me with me on this. All right, don't Jedi me on this.
Oh,
Trevor.
I can see the dancing Ewoks right now.
Ooh, there's gonna be another Death Star. He's gonna put the Death Star in there. He is.
Yeah.
Colin Trevorrow. And look, I dropped my charger. Look, I haven't seen Safety Not Guaranteed, so I don't know how his indie movie works. But from what I have seen, Jurassic World, whether it be the annoying character that runs the control center kind of, or it's that works in the control center, whether it be the fact that they tried to sucker me back in with the nostalgia of the T-Rex, and they didn't even keep the same roar she had, by the way. That's just a nitpick, but it's just if you're doing nostalgia, at least get the nostalgia right. The fact that the Raptor helped the fact that the Raptors abandoned Chris Pratt's character, Chris Pratt.
Wasn't it great? All those different times that Indominus camouflage. Oh wait, it did it once.
It did it once, which is one of the 8 minutes where I'm like, that's really cool, where the drop goes and then it just filters.
And then it never uses it again.
How cool was that? How cool was it when the pterodactyls came to the babysitter and picked her up, and we talked about this before, and flew her over and started dunking her in the water. The camera's following her as it's going through, and then he's finally one, then boom. The Mosasaur just eats everything up. I clapped. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the last good scene till the end of the movie. The movie rubs me the wrong way. And what angers me more is that people call it a good, fun movie. Fun. This is what got me my hatred of the word fun. Fun doesn't equal quality. Fun means that you had a nice time watching it. It doesn't mean what you're watching is good.
Yeah, but the more fun you're having, the more you're willing to overlook issues.
Which I'm fine with. I'm not saying that I'm not saying you can't have fun watching Jurassic World. There was times where I had fun watching Jurassic World, but don't come to me and say that the movie is great because it's fun. No, the movie's... Yeah. No, you had a fun time watching. That doesn't mean the movie's good because it's fun. It should be reversed. You should be having fun because the movie is good. There's a fine line there that I think people are seeming to cross over too much, but...
It's funny because when we were putting this list together before, you said I'm 90% happy with the top 10.
Oh, you just got it? You just got it?
This last one is the 10%.
That I can't stand? Yeah, but that's life for you. Oftentimes there will be a 90% that...
Can't wait for the sequel where they militarize raptors.
Yeah, I actually want to see that because it's stupid, but at least it's something we haven't seen before in the Jurassic Park movie.
I'm interested to see what direction they're going to go with the sequel, because
it's just going to be Lost World because Lost World also made money. So it's just going to be Lost World with some quirky characters and some clever, quote-unquote, clever writing where they poke fun at the stupid stuff that's happened in movies, so they're going to make it okay. And it's going to make another $1 billion because people like the first one.
Do you want to introduce number 9?
Yes. Number 9 on our list is Tom Cruise jumping on the couch in Mission Impossible Rogue Nation.
I enjoyed it too, but Yeah, it's interesting this made it in the top 10 and Spectre didn't. Wait, no, it's not surprising, is it?
No, I was about to say, I'm like, well, because Spectre was crap.
Yeah. But Spectre did get a lot of votes when we had our listeners voting.
It did.
Not enough to make the top 10, but it still did. I'm glad Mission Impossible got in as the spy movie. Well, I mean, there's another spy movie further up too. But yeah, I really liked it.
Spectre was actually like right below Mission Impossible on the list of listener votes. Like Mission Impossible just beat out Spectre. I'm
but
really surprised.
Since neither one of us wanted Spectre in, it kind of dragged it down out of the 10.
Absolutely,
so,
I wasn't putting Jurassic World and Spectre on this list.
Yeah,
that was not happening.
I feel like I don't have much to say about Mission Impossible. Well,
that's what I was actually
really
about to say.
Isn't it?
I just think that I'm a little surprised this movie hasn't made a bigger impact in the world of the film world, because when Ghost Protocol came out, I think because no one was expecting it to be incredible, so that when it was incredible, you're just like, wow, have you seen Mission Impossible? It's amazing. Go out and watch it. And with this one, it's like, yeah, another great movie. That's what we expect now from Tom Cruise, I guess. After Edge of Tomorrow was also surprisingly good. I guess now we just expect good from Tom Cruise again, which is, that being said, that takes away from how great this movie is. From the opening scene to the underwater bit that I love. It's so intense. I'm holding my breath with Tom Cruise to the ending with.
I think it's interesting to see. Sorry, go on.
No, I forgot. I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
I think it's interesting to see how the Mission Impossible franchise has sort of how it's grown and changed and sort of opened up as a franchise. Yeah. It's a little bit like Fast and Furious in that way.
Yes,
it started out as just a very espionage kind of thing, and it's sort of expanded out now too. We can have more wacky situations, and it's got like a whole sort of team around him now and lots of different characters. Yeah. And I really like it. It's like, what James Bond should be.
That's what I'm about to say. It's like that perfect amalgamation. It reminds me a lot of the modern, like the Sean Connery James Bond movies, where you're watching it. It's not like completely campy. Like we're gonna get into a movie that's really campy later on our list. It's not like Roger Moore, where you're just like, this is ridiculous, but still sometimes really good. It's more like Sean Connery, where like this is really good, classic spy kind of stuff. Of course they need to go infiltrate an underwater facility and switch out some cards. Of course he has to jump onto the side of a plane while it takes off. It's the same thing as back in Goldfinger. Of course he's strapped to a table with the laser going to his crotch. It's like it reminds me a lot of those older movies.
Yeah,
and it's great, and I'm happy that it made the list.
Totally. Number 8. We'll see, we're rushing through the lower ranks because we'll talk more about the other ones. Number 8 was Ex Machina. Yes, sci-fi fans out there, I am so glad to see this being supported.
Haven't seen it. Go ahead.
Well, it made number 10 on the listener picks. I actually put it as number 4 on my list, and you didn't have it on yours. But this is another one where it's actually got Hux from Star Wars Force Awakens.
Yeah, Donald Gleason.
Him and Oscar Isaacs are in it. They're the two main characters. And apart from I've forgotten her name.
Alicia Vikander.
That's it. Yeah, she plays a robot that Oscar Isaacs has. Basically, he's created an AI, so he brings in Hux as a computer programmer to try to test her to see whether the AI is genuine or not. And it's all explained in there, but throughout the course of it, you kind of it keeps you guessing all the way as to what's going on. Like, is Oscar Isaacs doing something shady? Is the robot just sort of messing with him because it's trying to find a way to get free?
Before we get deeper into this, I have not seen it. I actually have the Blu-ray on my desk. I'm actually planning to watch it.
It's really good. I won't spoil anything.
Thank you. I was going to say, please don't spoil it, because I've stayed off the ending, because apparently the ending's kind of crazy, but I don't, so I want to.
Yeah, but it's a real mind-bending experience. Yeah, so I'm so glad to see it's there. It had a bit of a rough time, that movie, like getting out there, and I think marketing in that was a bit difficult. But it just goes to show, like, quality movie, people find out about it eventually. It might take time for people to see it, but good word of mouth is the best thing. So glad it's there.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, the podcast I follow, Schmoes know, they had Alex Garland on the show, who was the writer-director. He also did 28 Days Later, I think, and I think Sunshine. I think he wrote Sunshine.
Oh, really?
But Yeah, I don't quote me on that, but I know he's worked with Danny Boyle in the past. But I heard great things about the movie. I heard they put a lot of work into it, and I've been wanting to see it. I actually I chappied it probably like back in May, and I saw the first 15 minutes, and then for some reason I had to stop watching it, and then I just never got around back to it. So it's gonna.
It seems to happen to you a lot. You always watch movies in installments.
Well, because especially if I chappy them, and for you guys that don't know, I never saw Chappie in theaters. I bootlegged it because I wasn't going to see the movie in theaters because I heard it was crap, and it was crap. So now whenever I bootleg a movie, I say I chappied it for legal reasons.
I haven't seen it either.
It's trash. So I chappied it.
I didn't bother to see Chappie because I'm like, well, I saw the other two movies, and it's basically that again. So.
Tone-wise, it is essentially that again. But it's crap.
But talking about other sort of lesser-known, well-known, what am I trying to say? Talking about other sort of artsy, smart kind of movies that maybe weren't marketed that good.
Smaller films that should have been seen more. We have number 7,
yes.
which is
that's what I was trying to
Steve
say. Thanks.
Yeah, I got you. That's what we're here, Bandit. Number 7, which is Steve Jobs. It's number 2 on my list, but you haven't seen it, so we moved it down, and it was also lower on the audience's list.
Yeah, it was 2 on yours. I haven't seen it, but I still put it as number 10 just because everyone speaks so highly of it. I thought it deserves to be on there, even though I haven't seen it. Our listeners didn't pick it.
Oh no, it's not right. No,
I don't know how far down it was, but it's not on the top 10.
I have the actual list right here. It was one of the last ones. It was right above Furious 7, which thank God. But
well, it's because you and I both had it on there. That's why we sneaked it in towards the bottom of the list.
And I'm happy it made the list because Steve Jobs is look. It really was beating Star Wars for a while as my number 1 favorite movie of the year. Steve, I've talked about it before. The message it has, the subtleties, and whether or not it is true events or not, it still has great character stuff. It still has a standout screenplay. Aaron Sorkin deserves that Oscar. I haven't seen Hateful Eight yet, but Aaron Sorkin is a genius when it comes to writing this kind of stuff, and it keeps up the pace. And I think the people's biggest complaint that I've read from the reviews and people are saying that it's kind of a movie where nothing happens. And I said, well, that's kind of the point. You're kind of just watching one guy talk to people 3 separate times in his life. It's more of the context of the conversation that you're watching. Nothing happens really, but that's a lot of movies. 12 Angry Men, which I have not seen in a while. I watched it once. When did you recommend it? It was like one of your favorite movies, right? That's when I went back and watched it. Not a lot happens in that movie. It's just people sitting in a room talking, but the stuff's happening with the people discussing things, and that's kind of how Steve Jobs works, and I loved it. Bandit, do you want to move on?
Yeah, let's move on to another movie that I also haven't seen, so you'll need to explain to me.
Oh yay! Number 6, Creed. All right, which it's just a remake of Rocky. It doesn't matter. It's just a remake of Rocky.
Voted number 5 by you. Voted number 10 by our listeners. Wasn't on mine, so we evened it out and we put it here, number 6.
Yes. Now listen. Here's where my Star Wars beef gets back at it again. Because
people don't like original ideas.
That's what I'm saying. That people are like originality, man.
Yeah, that's all why Star Wars did so well.
It's all about originality, man.
Because there's no original ideas.
We need more original movies. We need more original movies. And I'm like, well, what about Creed? People are like, oh man, I loved Creed. It was wonderful. I'm like, well, that was a remake of Rocky. They're like, no, it wasn't. I'm like, Rocky wasn't black. Rocky wasn't rich. I'm like, yeah, well, New Hope didn't have a stormtrooper. New Hope did not have a female. Well, you know what I mean.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, but that's like saying
I'm just
Mad
telling
Max
you what
Fury Road is a
what
remake of Road Warrior because they both have a big car chase. But surely Creed was different from Rocky, right? Like, I mean, sure, it's both got boxing and that, and the boxing is a metaphor for overcoming obstacles in your life. But what was Creed's sort of obstacle in his life he was trying to get over? Was it stuff to do with his dad or something?
Kind of. That wasn't really established till the very end. Yeah.
Huh.
It was about him kind of coming over his dad. And without giving, look, it's a boxing movie. He doesn't win. I'm sorry, I don't mean to ruin that for you, but it ends the same way the first Rocky does.
Yeah.
He doesn't win the boxing match.
He doesn't win the boxing match, but the crowd loves him. Yeah.
Yeah, and also he also gets
up.
trained.
Sorry,
yeah,
I keep
exactly. No, it's like, and he gets trained by an old mentor, and chickens are involved, and so it's like. Yeah, and so it is in many sense you can call it beat for beat the first Rocky, just with new stuff in there, with just some new stuff in there, and no one complained. But when Star Wars does it, people call it uninspired, which really because it's if you want to compare Force Awakens to Creed, they're both shot incredibly well. They're both acted they're both acted great, and they both have really compelling characters.
Yeah.
And they also both have similar plots to what came before it, the first films in that franchise. So, I'm not trying to throw any more shade at the
You're
Force
saying
Awakens.
that Creed kills Rocky at the end of the movie? Stabs him with a lightsaber?
And we all saw it coming. No, it was no. It's just that Creed is you can call it beat for beat Rocky, just putting stuff in. It's like same with Force Awakens, but again, it's great. Michael B. Jordan's fantastic, and Sylvester Stallone hopefully gets nominated for his role in this movie. He was wonderful. Everything I loved about Creed it's wonderful. It's just a great time at the movies.
Number 5, we're getting into the big leagues now.
Yes, these are our top 5.
Let me just say, this is something I voted pretty highly on my list, but for some reason when I saw it, I had second thought, and then I was like, was it really that good? But it is The Martian.
I still love it.
Number 5, yeah. It was number 3 on your list. It was number 6 on my list, and it was number 6 on the listeners' list.
Yeah.
Listeners' list.
The
Try saying
Martian.
that 5 times.
The listeners list. Listeners list.
Listen to this.
Mike Tyson. Listen to this. Mike Tyson. Sam Jackson.
Like, we all like The Martian, but now that I'm seeing it here and 5th best movie of the year, I'm thinking, was it really that good, though? I mean, I certainly enjoyed it.
Here.
Do you think
you hear that, Bandit?
You
hear that, Bandit?
What?
That's you opening up the can of worms, and let's go and let's dive in. Let's see. Now, The Martian is fantastic. Now, is it the most inspired movie? Is it the most original movie? Does it have the most riveting story? No, but it's shot well. It tells a good story. It may not be the most, mind-blowingly insane story. It's not a major spectacle, but it's a great personal story about a man trying to survive. And, just because it doesn't leave an impact on you like a movie like Mad Max or Star Wars would, I don't think that should excuse it from being considered one of the best movies of the year. Because in my opinion, it leaves you with a giant smile on your face, and it's a movie, one of those where you're like, remember The Martian? Like, oh yeah, dude, I love The Martian. It's one of those kinds of movies. It's not one of those where you sit back and you pick apart. Because even if you go back and listen to our podcast, we really just kind of go over the story and what we liked and what we didn't like. It wasn't like with Star Wars where we picked it apart, or it wasn't like with Mad Max where you can work out the little details and like, oh man, this is what makes a movie so great.
Perhaps we could ask ourselves this, because looking at the listeners' picks, 4 and 5, this is 5, so around about the same. Our listeners' picks were Avengers: Age of Ultron and Ant-Man. And just for the record, because neither one of us picked that, it pushed it further down the list, and I think they're like 12 or 13 or something like that. But for the sake of all our listeners who voted for them, let me play devil's advocate. Why is it The Martian should be here and Ant-Man and Age of Ultron shouldn't be here?
Okay. Well, that's kind of a loaded question here, and let me try to break this down as smooth as I can.
I'll try to help you because I'm playing devil's advocate.
Okay. No, I got you. Age of. No,
Sorry,
go ahead.
Sorry.
No, it's just like Age of Ultron is great. In my opinion, I think it's a great movie. I think Joss Whedon took a Herculean task of following up, in my opinion, one of the best movies of all time and trying to make a great sequel. And in my opinion, from a filmmaking standpoint, I think it's better than the first one in that it balances a lot of plates and doesn't knock a lot of them over. In terms of what I like more, my personal love goes to the first Avengers, and Age of Ultron is just like, yeah, it's a great movie. And Ant-Man, I think, is kind of in that exact opposite. It's still great, but it does kind of, again, going back, it tells a more personal story. It's a Marvel movie we haven't seen probably since, I don't know, first Iron Man, and where like it really just kind of focuses on this one group of people, and the whole world is not in danger by the end of it. Yeah, and that's. But with The Martian, go ahead. I'm talking too much. Go ahead.
No, that's right. I agree with you too. But I think the reason that The Martian is kind of here when actually I realize we don't really have any Marvel movies in the top 10, which is interesting. But anyway, I think the reason The Martian's in there is there's something about The Martian. It just feels more special. And maybe it's just because like Ant-Man or Age of Ultron, we've had so many Marvel movies. They have a similar feel because they're all Marvel and they're great. But something like The Martian, like you don't see movies like that as much anymore. You know, it's hard to express, but it just feels more special. I think it was definitely based off a really good book.
I don't think, with the exception of maybe something like Jurassic World, and none of these movies that I see on here are terrible. These are all, with the exception of Jurassic World, in my opinion, either really good or fantastic movies. And so if one is better than the other, that has nothing against the other film. It's just what we liked more. It's just our opinion. And you're right about The Martian. It makes you happy.
When you look at our official list, like we got The Martian is 5, Creed is 6, Steve Jobs is 7, Ex Machina is 8. I think all those movies fit in that category of like, sure, they're not big blockbusters, but there's something special about each one of them.
Exactly.
And I'm so glad that they're in our official list here.
That's what I'm saying. Like you don't have to have a $200 million budget to make, a fantastic movie. That's just just making sure you're right. Okay, so you want to keep going here? Let's keep going.
Yes.
Why don't you do number 4?
Number 4. Well, talking about another movie that is very special indeed. Inside Out.
Oh, it warms my
Pixar's
heart.
Inside Out.
Okay, all right. So before we get into the movie, there was this
8,
video.
Listener pick.
Yes.
Number 2 by me. And
Yes.
number 4 by you. So
It was my number
everybody
1
loves
for
this.
a while. I love this movie. But okay, so someone made a video. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's called Inside Out Outside Edition. And it's basically they cut out all the emotion stuff and they just leave the story of Riley. What I realized is that a lot of Riley's stuff is there's not a lot of dialogue. So oftentimes it reminds me a lot of the opening scene of Up, or that there's a short that they released a long time called Paper Man or whatever, where this guy is just trying to. Have you heard that short Paper Man that Disney did?
No, not really.
It's incredible. Okay, all right. So it's about this diverging here, but I'm sorry. Okay, so it's about this guy that's trying to get this girl's attention, and they're like 2 separate skyscrapers, and it's like black and white 2D animated, and he's trying to get her attention using he's supposed to be filing papers, but he turns them into paper airplanes, and is constantly trying to get the girl's attention, and it's cute, it's wonderful, but it reminds me a lot of that, and where there's no dialogue. It's just visual storytelling, and there will be talking sometimes, I saw that Outside Edition. I said this is incredibly insightful because it tells a very conventional. I don't want to say generic, but it tells a very similar that we've seen a lot of times storyline, but at the same time, it's done so well. It basically tells the first 12 years of this girl's life, but also. She kind of comes across as, I don't know if the word is right, schizophrenic in certain moments, because especially there's one scene where if you put all the emotional stuff in, it works, but like Riley's walking down the street and she sees like a railing she sees a staircase with a railing, and she jumps onto the railing and starts sliding down, and then looks and feels sad and then gets off it, and then she gets smiles and jumps right back on there because you cut out like the 10 minutes with all the emotion stuff. And then there's this scene where they're eating dinner, and she just kind of jumps out of nowhere, and you're like, I guess that kind of I guess that kind of makes sense because that's how teenagers work. We're suddenly mad for no reason, which I guess it makes the movie seem even smarter than we thought originally. Just that Outside Edition was great, but you talked about Inside Out, Brandon.
Yeah. I'd definitely like to check it out. Yeah, I just love this movie so much. My sister, or one of my sisters, said she hated this movie, and I immediately turned to her and I said, "So what's it like to have no soul?"
I'm like, so what's it like to be a communist, you anti-American?
Yeah.
All right,
I was like, how can anybody not like this movie?
Ooh,
it's just
look up
amazing.
the channel yourmoviesucks.org. He's a very insightful film critic, and now don't let
sure he is. Yeah.
No, don't let the name fool you. He he actually recommends some really great movies, and he has some very cool opinions on movies. But his Inside Out review, like you thought Sam Gavin might get you upset when you don't agree with his opinions. This guy, he knows how to get under your skin, but he spends like 20 minutes breaking down the movie about why he didn't like about it and how he feels the emotions were one note, which I highly disagree with. But that's just he didn't like the movie. Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, Inside Out, I think it's amazing how they were able to like visually represent the way that our minds sort of store memories and how like emotions imprint on a memory and how the emotions associated with memory can change as things happen. Like a happy memory can turn into a sad memory. I thought that was amazing. And it was also like, because I saw it with my nephew as well, and I thought it's something good for kids. It's like, yeah, like it's something that you could use to help in your raising kids, I reckon. Like, like a lot of kids who might get afraid of something, often it's because their initial reaction to something is fearful. Yes. So that sort of sets it. So if kids are sort of aware of that process, they can, shape it a bit more. But exactly. Yeah, and I like the lesson that every emotion, like there's no bad emotion. Every emotion has a reason. So like sadness is okay. There's a reason you feel sad so that you can get better again. And I thought it was really amazing that the closest thing to a villain in this was actually Joy.
Exactly.
Joy was actually the bad guy.
When she goes home and she's like, I just want to move. I don't want to move. She was upset, and how the family just kind of like embraces each other, and it's just a shot. It's a pan out shot of this family just consoling one another, and yet I'm watching this and I'm like, I'm feeling so bad for these pixelated characters. And I think, director Pete Docter, and watching the Outside Edition really brought in context to this, because he said the whole inspiration for this movie was his daughter going through puberty. Like, that's the whole inspiration for this movie. He's like, well, what's going on inside her head? And so he started making up the idea for this movie. And you're watching this and you're like, it makes sense, we all hit a certain age, and we all just start, we start becoming more angry at things. We start having different thoughts about things. Suddenly, childlike things like imaginary friends don't matter anymore. And so, I don't know. This movie just did so many things right.
Yeah.
and Bing Bong.
You know what? Like, I hope they don't do what they did with The Incredibles. Like, I hope this gets a sequel. And soon. I hope they don't take too long, like they did with The Incredibles. They left it too long and then it never happened. Because there's still so much more you can do with this idea.
Exactly.
I love it so much. Like, what I actually thought they were going to do in this, I think I might have mentioned this before when we talked about it, but maybe it's a bit too complicated, so saving it for the sequel would be a good idea. Because they're the consciousness or the emotions. I thought... Because remember, like, sadness, when she started touching the memories, and she's kind of like, I don't know why I did that, I just did it, sort of thing. So I thought that when sadness and joy were running through the memory, they were going to come across the subconscious, like a control room for the subconscious, and they've got all the same emotions there. And they're basically going to be saying to Joy, we've been making her do that because you're stopping her from doing her job.
Oh, that'd be so great. Yeah. That'd be so great. Because, oh, man... Oh man!
I thought that might be too confusing for kids, but I think that's
Christopher Nolan's Inside Out. Like he'll be writing Inside Out. He's just like,
in a bookcase dimension.
What we need? He's like, what we need? We need to add some more subconscious to the equation, and we're just it's just like, Chris, you know what? We'll go get Pete Docter, and he's like, no, I've got a great idea. And then he made Inception. Right. That is a cool idea, and I'm thinking that they might actually do that, because when we grow up, something has to happen where and subtle things like how the mom's main emotion is sadness. I think they can really explore that, like how everyone has different emotions controlling their center. What's her name? I forgot the girl's name. Riley. Riley is essentially, a very happy person. Their dad says that. It's like, you're our little happy girl. And so, is there going to be a point where joy is no longer the central emotion? Is there not going to be a point where someone else has to take over at the control center? Are we going to introduce new emotions? And are some emotions going to disappear? Because why is sadness the main control in the mom? So it's subtle things like that. Like, are they in an unhappy marriage? What's going on? I think and like, as Riley can mature, we can tackle more mature subjects. Like, we can tackle, why teenagers feel a sudden hatred towards their parents all the time. We can tackle why, she can kind of go through a rebellious phase. This can be a legit franchise in which every movie tackles something different, as long as they keep the same kind of momentum in that they have a lot of creativity. Because this one was very much about losing your childhood. Like, that's what this movie essentially was. So now you can make a movie about transitioning to your teenage years. You can have, like, I don't know, the acne button or whatever, because acne's terrible. But you can, there's some, I don't know, just this movie gets me excited.
Yeah, me too. So glad it got there. Number 4.
Yes.
So, do you want to introduce number 3?
Yes, and in the same vein, like, you can take your kids to go out and see Inside Out. You leave the kids at home for a number 3 spot, which is Kingsman, the Secret Service.
This was the breakout surprise winner in this top 10, wasn't it? Because both you and I, like, I had it as number 5, you had it as number 6, our listeners voted it as number 3. This got so many votes, and considering that it came out back in February, that's really amazing.
And I think I saw this to you offline. I think what partially may help is that it's on cable now, and so, like, on Christmas, like after Christmas, like that weekend, I watched Kingsman like twice, because it's on HBO and whatever now. So, it's like that's to say it, like, it's a refresher, like. And I forgot just how great Kingsman is. That church scene, it kind of comes out of nowhere, but when it happens, you were just all in. And the action is so... This is the movie where, like, oh, it's fun because it's good. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Where I'm like, oh, it's fun because we're watching quality on screen. Kingsman's such a fun time. I'd like to point out... Yes.
Matthew Vaughn movie. In your face, Brian Singer.
Bandit hates gay people.
People really hate it when I go after Brian Singer.
Well, he hasn't made a good movie since what? X-Men. Yeah. X-Men 2. I mean, Days of Future Past was okay. I'm talking like an excellent movie. He hasn't made excellent since what? X-Men 2. And but even you can argue
he's just like, if you look at the movies he's made, he hasn't made like that many, like in terms of directing and that. He's been involved with a lot. He hasn't like made that many movies, but they're all really good. It's like quality over quantity.
Exactly.
And yeah, he's just a really great filmmaker, and I'm always looking forward to. I hope he does the sequel to Kingsman. That could be really interesting.
I need to. We're really gonna feel that void if it doesn't. It's gonna look the same, but it's that extra. It's the storytelling that I want him to come back so we can do, because Kingsman. Like, from start to finish, right from the get-go, as the title comes through, and you're like, okay, this is kind of a glossy kind of adventure movie, and then right away, super violent. A guy explodes and blood splatters on the floor, and then whatever,
Luke Skywalker's head explodes.
Yes, I'm saying, and so Colin Firth pulls off the mask and he's like, S word, I effing missed it. How the F did I miss it? And I'm like, all right. I'm like, right now, great. Now we're into it, and then it just keeps kind of building. Mark Hamill shows up for no reason, then his head explodes, and you're just like, killed Luke Skywalker. All right, so that's where he's been since Star Wars happened. Yeah. And then the scene in the pub when he beats up all the thugs.
Yeah.
And
I love the British thugs too. The British thugs are so great.
You want a straight boy be on the corner talking like that?
You want to get your head beat in, isn't it?
You taking it in piss? Oh, it's
definitely like because the Weekly Planet podcast, they talked a lot about the comic, and like, I haven't read it, but based off what they said, it seems like Matthew Vaughn, he knew what good stuff to take from the comics and what bad stuff to definitely not take from the comics. Right. And there's just so much, there's so much cool stuff in Kingsman, but it's
so
like
slick. It's so slick.
And you know what? There's My mum told me this phrase. It's called studded cool, right? Because back in the day, it goes back to the. I'm going somewhere with this. Stay with me.
I'm listening.
Back in the day when people would wear like their leather jackets or whatever, and they put studs on them, and the more studs you have, the cooler you are. But there are people. Studded cool is someone who's like not very cool, so they go overboard, and they put so many studs all over their jacket to try to make themselves look cooler than they actually are. That's what studded cool is. See, I think
Fast and Furious. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, I think Fast and the Furious, something like that, is studded cool. I get the feeling Batman v Superman is studded cool.
That's my big concern.
Is genuinely cool.
Yeah, I think Jeremy Jahns put it great where he's talking about the Kingsman. He's like, the Kingsman will hold the door open for the lady and then beat up her crappy boyfriend. The movie very much represents the Kingsmen themselves, and I guess it's in the title. So and how it's stylish and it's slick, but it's also brutal and intense. But they mesh it so well together to where it's like when we first meet Colin Firth, he's very proper and and he's very well kept and put together. And I'll take after this pie, we'll leave after this pint of Guinness. And then and it's
I've had rather an emotional day.
I've had an emotional day. So whatever X he's done, and I'm sure it's justified. And then they provoke me, they irk me. He's like, you know what? Let's off some steam. And then he locks that door. Manners maketh men. And then the movie is just kind of on from there. And how Samuel L. Jackson, oh my God,
he's so good, isn't he?
He's so great. Oh my God,
he is a fantastic actor, Samuel L. Jackson. He really is. Everyone talks about Samuel L. Jackson about all the scenes where he's shooting people or shouting, but he's just a great actor in general. And
I seem to forget that sometimes because you watch I haven't seen Hateful Eight, but you watch Pulp Fiction, and then you watch Django Unchained, where he's just despicable. You watch the Marvel movies where
in Django Unchained.
That's exactly.
He was so evil, and he looked so old. And it's amazing when you see Hateful Eight, he looks much younger again.
That's what I'm saying. But you watch Django Unchained, and you're just like, I'm not sure who's worse, Leo or Jackson. So you're like, and then you watch the Marvel movies, oh, cool, Nick Fury, awesome, he's like a grandpa. They're like awesome, and then or kind of the cool uncle, and you're like, yeah, and then because he reminds me of my grandpa Nick Fury, but then
really? Cool.
Well, my grandpa on my dad's side, he reminds me a lot. He's just no nonsense, but at the same time kind of a nice fun time.
And Samuel L. Jackson in this reminds you of your grandpa on your mum's side, probably.
I'm legally not allowed to say anything.
Mr. DeVille.
I'm legally
Mr. DeVille with that lisp.
That Kingsman kid dead yet? Oh my God, this ain't that kind of movie. He doesn't. I'm legally not allowed to say anything. And then you see him in Kingsman, and you're just like, you're despicable, but I love watching you every second. You're great. That scene where he's talking to Obama, and it's just. Kingsman does so many, again, with Inside Out and The Martian, it just does almost everything right. If I have one complaint, it's that, I don't know, I thought Michael Caine was a little weak. I don't know. Just because he just kind of was one note to me. But that's a very minor nitpick in my opinion.
But you do get to hear Michael Caine swearing like a trooper.
Awesome. Yes! At least the girls got balls.
And how is it that a movie like Kingsman has a better villain plot than Spectre? Come on. Mm-hmm. How is it has a better Bond plot than an actual Bond
What did we say
movie?
back when Spectre came out? That's how you do a modern Bond plot. Make it that they have a giant connected cell phone network that makes people go crazy and kill each other.
Yep.
Maybe it doesn't have to be maybe it doesn't have to be that violent because lots of babies, lots of puppies died.
Yeah.
That's what I told my cousin DJ because he watched it for the first time 2 weeks ago. I'm like, so how do you feel about the fact that all the babies died? And he's like, no. I'm like, no, because not every mom locked that door. There were some people cuddling their child, and then that phone went off.
Yeah, there would have been a lot of dead babies.
Oh yeah,
but again, I like that Matthew Vaughn takes it that far, and he left the machine on really long.
But the thing is that you don't really think about that until the movie's done because you're not. It's not that you're so invested with it with what else is going on. And just Gazelle, the henchman, great, wonderful.
Yeah, with
see
the
this
sword
is, and
legs,
this is like a modern Roger Moore Bond movie, and it's
it's like
awesome.
A modern Roger Moore.
It reminds me a lot of Spy Who Loved Me. Is Jaws in that one? I think Jaws is in that one. I don't know. I've been wrong before, but
I think he is. Yeah.
just so many like crazy stuff's happening. The movie opens and he parachute with the English flag on there. You're just like, great, awesome. And then Kingsman, it's like they spend 2 minutes talking just about shoes, and then it ends with just like, so what does that do? Is that it's like a bullet, whatever? It's like, no, of course not. It's a hand grenade. And it's like, what? It's like they have that balance, and it's so great. But yeah,
and it's like I just loved being able to see Colin Farrell having that awesome fight scene and knowing that he actually did it. And this is the same guy that had that fight scene with Hugh Jackman.
It's Colin Firth.
Yeah, that's what did I say?
You said Farrell.
Colin Farrell. Yeah,
I slide.
Colin Firth. Sorry, but yeah,
No.
it's hilarious that this is the same guy that fought Hugh Grant. In that terrible fight scene, and now he can give us this awesome one in Kingsman.
Oh my god! It's partially a tracking shot, and it's just, oh man!
I want to go watch it again now.
That's what I'm saying. Like the moment it's over, like, you know what? I can sit there and watch that last like half hour all day. It's so wonderful.
And all the heads exploding in the sound of the dun 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 dun. Heads just going.
Yeah, and like that's the way of doing your that's called suggested violence. Like, I feel like
it's all these hypercolors.
Yeah, I feel like Matthew Vaughn wanted to just be blood and guts, and Fox was just like, can we CG in some color? And they're just like, oh yeah, sure, yeah, But it's so suggested that when a guy explodes and we see his eye pop out and then colored by blue smoke, that's
I got the impression he was trying to do it like the colors of the English flag, sort of thing, the red and the blue,
Yeah, but there's also some oranges and yellows.
And there was, wasn't there? Yeah. Well, yeah, Kingsman, so great.
And I'm glad you guys like
there
it as
in
well.
our third spot.
Wonderful, and it stayed wonderful over the year, which I'm happy. Okay, so Bandit.
Now we're in the big leagues, our top two, and as soon as we say the second one, you guys are all automatically going to know which movie's the first. Do you mind if I introduce this one?
You know what? Let me do this.
Okay.
Our number 2 is Fantastic Four. Now, Fantastic Four, Bandit, is one of those movies where you sit down.
It's so bad that it's good, and that's why it's number 2.
It's where you sit down and you watch it and you're like, wow, this is a dumpster fire, but boy is it pretty, so it's, and so you're like,
no,
wow.
it's for everyone freaking out. No, it's not Fantastic Four. It's Mad Max Fury Road. That's our second best.
I was like, I almost didn't do it because I'm like, Bandit really wants to introduce this movie. It's one of his favorites, but I gotta do this joke. So go ahead, Bandit. Go ahead.
Yeah, that did good because I put in. Everyone, on the video where everyone was voting, I did put in Fantastic Four as a joke, but a lot of people started voting for it, and it almost did make the top 10.
It got more votes. It got more votes than Steve Jobs and a lot of yeah. It got more votes than a couple of movies. So.
Oh man. But anyway, yes, Mad Max Fury Road is number 2. Now I always knew it would come down to this and Star Wars for the battle for the top one, and have to hand it to you, Trey. Yes, Star Wars was indeed the clear winner. It had so many more votes than Mad Max Fury Road. And in the polls I put on Twitter and as well as in the video of which do you think is the best, it was about 60-40 or maybe it was 70-30, but in favor of Star Wars.
It was close.
But I do need to ask, do you think a lot of this is recency bias though? Because everybody just saw Force Awakens, so the hype is still out there. Mad Max was a long time ago.
I don't think so. Not anymore, at least.
But
If this was this. Now you asked me a question, let me answer. It's okay. I'm just saying, if this was like the Saturday before and Star Wars is still number 1, yeah. But like I said, there's been a lot of backlash towards The Force Awakens, and I think, and just because Mad Max was closer than I ever thought it was to, maybe not surpassing it, but getting up there with Star Wars. Like for a while, the tallies were equal for Mad Max and Star Wars. I think Mad Max ended up being beaten by Star Wars by 9 tallies. At the same, also more people have seen Star Wars than people have seen Mad Max. I honestly think that if Mad Max got the same reception viewing wise that Star Wars did, we would be seeing either neck and neck or Mad Max surpassing it,
You know,
because I honestly think
I
think Mad Max is a better made movie than The Force Awakens.
And I think if we compare the reviews, I actually think, like, because you said Star Wars got a lot of backlash. I actually think in terms of like critical reception, Mad Max Fury Road definitely.
Critical reception for I think critical reception is about on par. Maybe a little higher from Mad Max.
I don't think so.
Well, I think if you
all
want
the
to go by
complaints
Rotten
people
Tomatoes,
have for Force Awakens, nobody really has any complaints about Mad Max, except that the story is very simple.
I can show you some
which
complaints
isn't a
from
flaw.
Mad Max. It's not a flaw. It's not in some people's eyes it is a flaw.
Yeah, but see,
some
they
people
don't understand. It's like complaining that a Mad Max movie has a simple plot is like complaining that a Fast and the Furious movie has too many car chases in it. It's supposed to be. That's built into it. It's like complaining that there's lightsabers in Star Wars. It has to be there. It's what it is. So I
will give you that reasoning for when people complain that Mad Max isn't the main character of the movie. I will say that I'm like that's always Mad Max. Mad Max never has a big monolithic dialogue or whatever.
Yeah. But also another reason I'm sulking that it's not number one is because I feel Mad Max Fury Road, it had a higher mountain to climb. Like, sure, there was a lot of expectation for Star Wars The Force Awakens. Definitely a huge amount of pressure on J.J. Abrams. But everybody knows Star Wars. Nobody even, like, a lot of people never even seen Mad Max before. So for it to break out of obscurity and be as popular as it was, I think is more of an achievement than Star Wars that's already known around the world doing well.
I will say the movie had achieved something really great. I can't say that the movie had a big mountain to climb, because before that trailer came out, like that first Comic-Con trailer came out for Mad Max, people were just like, oh yeah, there's a new Mad Max coming out, I guess. And then that trailer came out, and that's when the hype started. Yes. It wasn't until people saw something that they were just like, this movie's going to be amazing. But with Force Awakens, ever since the movie was announced in 2012, people weren't just like, oh, there's a new Star Wars movie coming out. People were like, there is a new Star Wars movie coming out. Yeah. So I don't think that takes away from anything Mad Max did. Again, I still think it's a better made movie.
Yeah, but I think because of that built-in hype and built-in fan base of Star Wars, it has an advantage over Mad Max that Mad Max doesn't have. So I think that's why Mad Max reached this high on the top 10 is more impressive.
I think the fandom is kind of a disadvantage at some point, because we're seeing backlash because, I don't know. Look, you're right. I'm just trying to justify my opinion.
It's like if someone who gets a home run hits. I don't really know baseball that well, but it's like someone who cracks the ball, runs all the way around, gets a home run, versus someone who was already on third base, making it home. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that.
I wouldn't call Star Wars
further to go to get where it did.
Bandit's back with his analogies, everybody. I saw some comments on one comment I think said, "Bandit, you are the king of analogies." But I'd put Star Wars on there on back on home base before. Yeah. I think Star Wars had to make the full dash. If anything, I think it was
at least on second base, because it's Star Wars.
Well, in terms of like people supporting it, yes, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
but
there's no way Star Wars, even if it's terrible, even if Force Awakens turned out to be the worst movie ever, it'd still make its money back. Fury Road could have possibly tanked because there hadn't been a movie in 30 years.
But I don't think Profits is very much a good generator of how well the movie is received. Sure, but it's because Edge of Tomorrow made $1.95. But it's considered one of the best movies one of the sci-fi films in the last few years. Ex Machina.
Force Awakens was born on third base, and they're pretending like they hit a triple.
I look at it more as if we're doing your baseball analogy.
Just sulking,
Mad Max. If I look at it more as your baseball analogy, Force Awakens is like they're on home base and they have like the entire stadium and like everyone on TV watching, going Star Wars, expecting them to get a home run. And when Star Wars only got to maybe third base, everyone was just like, you suck, but with Mad Max is just like, oh, hey, Mad Max is up to bat. And then when it knocks it out of the park, everyone's like, oh my God, have you seen Mad Max? You know, it's kind of when that's, I guess, if you want to look at your baseball analogy, yeah, that sounded kind of cynical. I'm sorry, but if you want to look at your analogy, I think that's how I see it. But let's talk about the actual movie because it's great.
Sure, yeah,
even though
it's
it's number 9
fantastic.
on my list. That's just because I think 8 movies are better than that. But oh, excuse me, dropped my phone. But go ahead.
Yeah, I absolutely love Fury Road. I've watched it so many times, and it's also like it's the kind of movie that if you meet someone and they haven't seen it, you're like, you have to see this.
Yes.
You must see it. And
you will go watch the movie. You will watch Fury Road. And they're just like, I will watch Fury Road.
yeah, if someone hasn't seen Ant-Man, you're not going to insist that they have to see Ant-Man.
Right.
But something like Fury Road, you're like, no, you got to, because it's totally unique.
Now, here's my question. Do you tell someone if they're like, "Oh, I found this pirated on my phone. Can I watch it?" Or do you go get the Blu-ray and find your largest TV? Because this is where I think my argument stays. If
Sure.
like Force Awakens, like I would rather have someone watch Force Awakens on their phone than Mad Max Fury Road. Because to me,
I see what you're thinking is, yeah.
yeah, because I remember I saw Mad Max 2 weeks after it was out. I was 10 minutes late to the movie because my dad got stuck in traffic and it was only showing at one theater at that time. No, that's not true. But there was only one at that time at the time, like clockwise. But my point is, we got in there, the theater was packed, and I was just when people say what's your best time at the movies at best time at the movies this year, my tie is between Star Wars and Mad Max because I remember when I first saw the blind guy playing the guitar on the truck full of amps, and I turned to my cousin and I said, "TJ, there is an effing guy on the truck with amps with a flamethrower guitar." He's just like, "I know." I'm just like, "I don't believe what I'm seeing right now." And then like the guys with the poles, and they have like they're choking out Furiosa. I'm like, "Are you seeing this? Who dreamt this stuff up?" And that's where I'm like, it's better in a movie than Star Wars because the things in this movie, you're just like, what have you been doing? Like, what do you just sit at home or just like do you see like a rope and you're just like, huh? I wonder if that would be attached like to an exploding car. And if we shot that, and if we shot the guy, and we threw the guy outside the car, and then just erased the wires, I wonder if that would look cool. Let's try it. Like, this movie's incredible. Like, how do you?
Yeah. And it paints the picture of this whole sort of society and this whole world, even though you only see like the edges of it. And I think that really says something for like world building, because like you feel like and like I remember after it, I'm like, I really want them to do more because I just want to explore more of this wasteland and see what other crazy stuff is out there,
Because when they're driving on the dried out ocean or whatever, my question is, I'm like, oh, what does India look like? What does Asia look like? Like what do these lands look like outside of the Aussie world? I never want to see that, of course, because that's not Mad Max. That's Resident Evil 3 when they're in the desert with all the zombies. But
America's probably like fighting Skynet in the future. That's probably the Terminator apocalypse. Australia's the Mad Max apocalypse.
Don't connect Genesis to Fury Road. Don't do that to me. Don't make
England
me
is 28 days later. the zombie apocalypse.
Japan's those Resident Evil movies because they always have those zombies set in Japan or whatever. Japan, Godzilla, Pacific Rim, that stuff.
Or it's like Attack on Titan or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, heyo, dropping knowledge. No, but Mad Max does some great stuff. The first shot, the opening shot, like it just opens and he's just like, my name is Max or whatever. Our world is fire and blood. And then like he steps on the lizard and he gets in his car and drives off. And it's like a 3-second shot and nothing happens. And then you just hear, woof, and like these bikes or these cars, whatever, it's like jump in the frame. It's like, and the camera's zooming in. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, how do they do it? It was, sorry.
Actually, I saw an interview with George Miller where they were talking to him and they said, oh, one of the common fan theories out there is that Tom Hardy's character is actually the grown-up version of the dog boy from Road Warrior. And they're like, is that true? No. And George Miller's like, no, but I like that. Because they explained that the dog boy in the Road Warrior kid's like the feral kid is like, he doesn't really talk. He's just grunting and groaning and stuff like that. And that's what Tom Hardy's like. At the start of the movie, he just communicates through grunts. and they said like part of the reason why, like all the people that he has flashes of memories that he failed to protect were the people at the end of Road Warrior that he sort of went with, because he does say he one day eventually became like the leader of that group. So if he failed to protect all them, and they said that if he was the dog boy, that moment where he says, "My name is Max," that sort of shows why it was such a big deal for him to say that, because he's like finally adopting that mantles kind of thing. But yeah, so they said all that to George Miller, and he was like, "I like it, but it's not true. But I like it." And I love that too.
You know what other creator of the franchise likes a really crazy theory?
Who?
George Lucas, when they say that Jar Jar's a Sith Lord. He's like, no, but I like that because you put Jar Jar back in the minds of people. No. I mean, it's a cool theory, sure, but he's Max. I forgot how to pronounce the last name, but it's Max.
That's right.
It's like saying what if Luke
Skywalker
Skywalker wasn't Luke Skywalker in The Force Awakens?
And
what if it was actually?
I also like about Mad Max that, like we keep bagging on Spectre, but in like I think that suffers
Let's
from
bag
this
on
where
Spectre. It's crap.
everything's trying to connect through all the movies, and it so much so that it annoys you. And like I like that Mad Max Fury Road, it doesn't really connect to the others, and it's not really supposed to. It kind of does.
It's only
kind
connection.
Of a breath of fresh air, you know.
It's kind of like he has long hair at the start, right? Like so, like you're kind of like, okay, so it reminds me of Thunderdome, but then you're like, but it feels like Road Warrior. It's similar, like tone wise, and like the look is familiar, but you know, and the plot is kind of familiar, but we're kind of. But
because like it's supposed to be set after Thunderdome, and he does have the long hair. But then it's like, why does he have the V8 Interceptor again? Because he loses that in the second movie. He doesn't have it in Thunderdome. So yeah, it's kind of all over the place.
Have you heard that Miller wants to re-release the movie in black and white?
Oh really? I didn't know that.
I think that's a huge mistake. Maybe he has a really cool way of doing it, like Sin City, because Sin City looks incredible in black and white. But Mad Max has so many memorable moments that it's so colorful.
The colors add so much to it.
Like when those things are in the sky and it's like red, yellow, and you're just like I remember seeing that trailer and like my mind was blown. I'm like, that looks beautiful. It's beautiful chaos. Yeah. And I think, you know, it's not like Walking Dead. We're like, okay, I usually watch Walking Dead in black and white anyways. But it's not like that. And I think, look, if he wants to do it artistically, that's fine. But I think it's a huge mistake.
And yeah, that's true. I think he should keep it in color as well. But it's like, yeah, just sort of wrapping up Mad Max Fury Road. It definitely deserves to be up here. I still think it deserves to be number one.
I was going to give you number one. I was willing to give it to you.
He was, for all our listeners, he was willing to give up number one, but I said no, because the listeners did vote at number one, and you wanted number one, and so I was outnumbered, so I was like, yes.
Looking at it like as a movie, like as a constructed movie, I think it's a better made movie than Force Awakens. I still love The Force Awakens more, but you know,
it's a little bit more artsy as well. It's amazing that it's a movie where the guy playing a flamethrower electric guitar is still artsy.
When people say that it is an art film in many ways, but that's why whenever you bring up like movies like Oscar bait movies or artsy films, like people think of like, oh, the movie about The Artist from 2011, or the black and white silent film that came out here in America that won Best Picture, or people think of like 12 Years a Slave and they think of like an artsy movie. But artsy movies can mean a lot of things. In many ways, Interstellar is an art film, but sorry, I didn't mean to go on a side rant.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Well,
do you want to get to number one?
Introduce your top one.
Star Wars.
Nothing but
Episode 7. Nothing but Star Wars. Nothing but Star Wars.
By a
this movie's good.
Majority, no doubt, the number one movie of the year. The official top movie for the Movie Mania podcast is The Force Awakens.
Force Awakens had like, let's see, 395, 510.
Last time I checked, it had 290 thumbs up.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, well, I added the comments, and it was at like 395.
Wow.
So, as opposed to Mad Max, which had Mad Max had 206.
Yeah. And that's why I couldn't put Mad Max
You have
number
two,
one
like,
because it's
200
got,
people
over
going
100
against
views
you.
more Star Wars.
200 people going against you, like, you hate Star Wars, even though you dedicated a year of your life to making what it should be videos. But that's beyond the point.
That's right.
What else can we really say? We didn't. After listening back on our podcast a couple of times, we didn't really get into what we loved about the movie. We really spent a lot of the time debating things, which is fine.
Well, I mentioned this to you before we started recording, but because I've seen the movie a couple more times since then, and the more I watch it, the less the things that I complained about bother me. So I'm kind of coming around more to your kind of view.
What's that?
I still acknowledge all the problems, but they don't bother me as much now.
Once again, I'll give you the Death Star. I'll give you the Death Star. I'll even give you the trench run, because going back to watch it, there was another trench run-esque scene. But you know what? I was having a great time watching it. And it's because the characters are there, and it's because it's not the main focus of that plot.
Yeah.
And like in the Nostalgia Critic's review of the movie, they list off, like in like 2 minutes, they list off all the similarities. It's like, come on, what about a droid going to a desert planet and helping out a main hero, and then going and they had like side by side pictures, and there were a couple of them where I'm just like, I don't know about that one. Like, the old mentor one is one that I don't really get behind, because
I do, because he's the one who sort of explains the whole thing of the Force and all that, and compared to Obi-Wan in A New Hope, Obi-Wan doesn't really do that much.
He doesn't.
he does.
And going back and watching The Force Awakens, how do I put this? Han Solo isn't really the one to explain what the Force is. He explains that he knew Luke Skywalker, and he's just like, he's like, the Jedi are real. And he's like, some ancient thing controlling my destiny. Yeah, it's real. That's pretty much all he says. He doesn't explain exactly what the Force is. He's not teaching us anything. All he is making. He's like, yeah, you're right. They're real. And yeah, I knew Luke Skywalker. That's pretty much what he's saying. As opposed to when they meet Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan says, Luke, this is your father's lightsaber. This is what the lightsaber did, and this is Luke. If anything, Maz Kanata does more of Obi-Wan's job than Han Solo does.
I suppose
so
that's
if you
true.
If you want to switch out that role, and also,
I'm not sure if I like the idea that she's older than Yoda, though, because they say she's run this place for 1,000 years. Yoda was 900 when he died. I don't know if because if she's 1,000 years, that kind of is saying that she's wiser than Yoda, but I don't think she's really earned that.
Not
yet.
necessarily, because she's not a Jedi, so she doesn't have that kind of experience, though.
Yeah.
Like, she knows the Force, but she's not like Yoda, where he's like, she didn't go, as far as we know, she didn't go to a planet for 20 years, and it's just like, in exile, I must go, and learns about the Force. But I think it just expands the universe. Like, there are beings out there who are older than Yoda, and also I think it helps sets up stuff, because I'm not sure how far Darth Bane is from the Phantom Menace, but if it's like if that's around the same, I don't know how far back that is, but I think it's like 1,000 years, right, or something like that. But so if you can do a flashback to the Darth Bane stuff through Maz Kanata, because she's seen all this, like she says that she's seen some stuff, you can really do. You can do a lot with that character, and with her being 1,000 years old is great. I wrote down something. Oh yeah, I wrote down my Ray point from earlier. Let me try to explain this.
Sure.
To the whole Mary Sue thing.
I was going to ask you about the whole thing of Poe being gay, but we can talk about that later.
Oh yeah, let's do that now, because I've never been more behind. Pun intended, I guess. I've never been more behind the idea than the idea of Finn and Poe being in a relationship, because I think that would be such a big middle finger to all the people who are stuck in the past.
It would certainly be a bold move, no doubt about it. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, it'd be bolder than saying Luke Skywalker's in the movie than having me in it for 38 seconds.
I seriously doubt they'll do it, though. I mean, you remember a while back we talked about how they've gotten rid of the Slave Leia toys because they're worried that it's too risque for kids. So,
well, that's more nudity than gay marriage.
Yeah, but I think
have you seen the Fine Brothers video about kids' reaction to gay marriage or whatever?
No,
that's a great video. They do a reaction. They had the kids talk about gay marriage and what they think about it, and it's very insightful. But I think.
Actually, I think I have seen that. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I
and
think
how
I've seen that.
like 9 out of 10 kids were like, it's great, you know, it's what they love, it's true love, it's what that is. There's one kid that's just like,
mind you, I remember now. I did kind of get the impression that they weren't speaking their own words. You know,
you don't think
like
so?
maybe they were just repeating what their parents said, because that's what kids do.
That's
you
what
know,
I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying.
kids just say what their parents say when they're kids.
But now they're going to grow
them as
up
adults when they actually think for themselves. But
I
anyway,
think
now
they're
I'm
gonna grow
now
up
I'm
with
going to have
that
people saying I'm
mindset.
homophobic. I'm just saying.
No. I'm trying to help you here. I'm like, and now they're going to grow up with that mindset of, okay, it's cool because my parents says it was cool. So what's the big idea? You know, so now they're going to grow up knowing, like, look, diverting from the point, Finn and Poe would be a great relationship because, and I after watching it for the third time, I was watching that scene when they meet again, like really carefully. Poe bites his lip when he sees Finn. He's
That's
like,
basically
no,
what all this
suits
came
you.
down to is a certain way that he looks at Finn and he kind of bites his lip. But mind you, Oscar Isaacs, he's a bit of a prankster. He's a bit of a clown. So it's very possible that he is playing Poe with the idea of him being gay, and he's just kind of doing it as a bit of a joke.
I feel like he might just
It's very possible that he's
that
doing
bite lip in there, and they didn't have enough time to go back and reshoot it. And so JJ's watching the movie, and just like, oh god, people are gonna be so like. But listen, if they don't do it, fine, whatever.
I reckon they'll leave it open, but they'll probably like neither confirm nor deny. You know, they'll probably do that. Like they might come out and say yes, they're a couple. But they'll just sort of... They
should have like a legit like Han and Leia romance. Give me a Poe and Finn theme.
But shouldn't C-3PO and R2-D2 get together first?
No.
I mean, they've had a longer gay relationship.
No, because Anthony Daniels and C-3PO hate each other, and droids don't have genitals. So...
Don't discriminate against droids.
I'm not discriminating. I'm just saying they can't procreate. So it's not that big of a deal.
They can't procreate, so it's an abomination. Oh, wait.
I didn't realize what I just said. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, boy. That's not what I meant. I meant they're not human beings. That sounds even worse. Oh, God.
They're not humans like us.
Oh, God. Oh, you sound like one of my...
Let's move along.
Man.
Move along.
You sound like the responses on my Over the Rainbow video.
Oh, yeah. But anyway, you were going to say about
Move along.
You were going to say about the Ray Mary Sue thing?
Yeah. It's just, you know... Okay, so let's work through the things that Ray does know. When she goes in, she is a pilot, so she knows how to pilot the Falcon. Mm-hmm. She starts to figure it out slowly. And it's that Falcon chase that really kind of I use to kind of help my argument here because, you know, in the same way Luke used the Force in New Hope to know how to guide the it's called torpedo, isn't it? To guide the shot into the exhaust port to shoot the Death Star. Mm-hmm. Rey kind of just has that feeling. She has a feeling of, I have an idea, I should try this. Whenever she makes the Falcon go upside down, she's like, Finn, shoot now, and he shoots it. And he's like, how'd you do that? And she's like, I don't know. And so that's where I'm like, okay, so there's something there. She has a sense of the Force in her almost from the get-go. And then Kylo Ren says, you know, the longer she's using her powers, the stronger she's going to get. So from that, so the point of her being using the Force is not from when Kylo interrogates her. It's actually from the Falcon chase on. You know, and granted, she's not using the Force like she is after Kylo interrogates her, but there's something there, and I look at it as it's kind of building its way up. And so when Kylo interrogates her, I feel like she's kind of able to push back because that thing's been building. And so and also when Kylo's inside her head, something kind of gets turned on. I think this is how I interpret it, because this is the way I look at it.
How is she able to mind trick that stormtrooper? How does she even know what a mind trick is?
Well, she went.
That's Mary Sue. You gotta admit it.
Well, she went through Kylo Ren's head.
But that's totally different, though.
That's trying to pull information out of someone's head.
That's very different than kill-graving someone.
And now she also knows about Luke Skywalker. She's heard about the Luke Skywalker, which implies that she's heard about the Jedi. Now, maybe if they threw it, I think this will all be fixed. If they threw in one line about, I mean, I've done some reading about the Jedi, but if they put that one line in the movie, I think that honestly fixed a lot of the issues people had, because people would be like, how'd she know how to do a mind trick? I'm like, well, she read about it. Like, how is she able to use the lightsaber? She's read about how to do it. You know, if all she had to do was like, I've done some reading about the Jedi, you fix that right there. But since she didn't, since they left open to interpretation, people hate it. So
it'd be like Ninja Turtles, where they learn ninja skills from a book.
I have to update an origin sometimes, so I'm cool with it. You know, but I think, you know, she goes into Kylo Ren's head, she reads it, she clearly accesses his mind. She finds something. She's looking deep enough to my dog's barking. She's looking deep enough so that to where she can find Kylo Ren's biggest fear. So I think that implies that she found something while going through his head. Might have been the Jedi mind trick. You know, he's clearly strong enough in the Force to know how to use the mind trick. And also she.
I didn't think so. Like, I always thought of it like what Kylo's doing, where he's trying to get information out of her head, is kind of like smashing something with a sledgehammer, you know, or like. But mind trick, that's like surgery. You need to know what you're doing. Like, I mean, or that you can force push Kylo Ren away. I get that. That's like a blunt instrument. It's like a reflexive thing. So I got no problem with her doing that. But I've always thought that mind trick is someone needs to be trained. They need to know what they're doing. She's able to read his mind, so clearly she knows how to go into and access someone's mind. And she doesn't do it right away. It takes her 3 tries to do it. Yeah,
you know, and every time
that's like someone saying, you know, hey, I know how to fry bacon and eggs. Well, I guess I can make a 3-course meal now.
Well,
it's
that's like someone
really
saying that's like
you know?
It's like someone saying I know how to make bacon and eggs. No.
I can build a house, right?
Now, Mr. Analogy, let's work on your first analogy. It's like someone saying, "Well, I know how to make bacon and eggs, so now I'm looking to knowledge to figure out how to make an omelet." You know, she figured out how to do mind. She figured out how to read a mind. So now let's see if we can do mind control. And so she did it 3 tries. She tried making that omelet 3 separate times. And on the 3rd time, she made a pretty good omelet. She figured it out. You know what I'm saying?
Except that she went straight into the mind trick. She didn't like gradually learn.
She did mind control. She went from reading a mind and figuring out how to access a mind to mind control.
No, she didn't. She went from a reflexive, instinctive self-defense of her own mind to actually.
She read her mind. She read Kylo Ren's mind.
Controlling another person's mind. They're very
different. She read
different.
Kylo Ren's mind. I think so. I think accessing, because reading a mind, you have to go inside someone's head. You have to attack someone's head and find them something in there. Right? He's like, because Kylo Ren's like, you know, like you're afraid, it's okay, and then she, you know, that's my Kylo Ren voice, and then she reflects it, and it's just like, and she's reading in there too, and she's just like, you know, you're afraid too. You're not going to be as good as Darth Vader. And I think that, you know, that's not a big leap from accessing someone's mind to find their deepest secret to learning how to control someone in someone's mind. That's because, and also the Stormtrooper was pretty weak-minded, so. But that's just a smaller thing too that you want to throw in there. But it's like I don't think that's a big leap.
I think it's definitely a big leap. I think it's a Mary Sue. It's got Mary Sue written all over it.
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So moving on. Yeah. There's actually been some information released about some of the scenes that were in the movie that got cut, and there's a whole bunch of them. Some of them were actually really, really interesting. One of which showed that Kylo Ren, when he was talking to Vader's helmet, he elaborated a bit more about what he thought about Vader, and it reveals that he does know that he turned good right before he dies, but he views that as a momentary weakness, like a temporary, what's the word? Yeah, just a temporary weakness.
Right.
So now I reckon they should have had that in, because it really does set up how much he knows, and of course, it makes sense, because of course he'd know about Vader. Luke must have told him everything that happened, you know, at some point during his training. I wish they had left that in.
The way I look at deleted scenes is that, you know, if they're taken out, and this is the same way I look at it with unanswered questions, you know. If the question is not answered, or if the scene is taken out, does it, you know, mess up the plot? Does it ruin what happens in the movie? And you know, and I'll say no. And like for something like that, you know, it's a nice extra touch. But I don't think that it would. I don't think it hurts the movie to have that out.
Well, there was there was also another bit which probably didn't hurt taking it out. You know the guy that Sean Penn played that weird alien guy who's like 20 portions. That dude.
You mean Simon Pegg? You said Sean Penn.
Whatever. I'm terrible with names.
It's okay. It's okay.
There was a shot where he goes after the Falcon after they steal it, and he tracks it back to the thing that Han Solo was on, and he has he tries to take it back, and Chewie rips his arm off.
Revealing Simon Pegg's face, and he quickly scurries away from the camera.
Which, even though they probably wouldn't have needed it, I still would love to see Chewie rip someone's arm off.
Yeah, you told me, like, I remember you said before the movie happened, you're like, man, I want to see Chewie rip someone's arm off. But,
and,
I mean, you could do it. You would have to make the blood, like, green or something, but you could do it.
Sure. And one of the other things as well was there was a little bit more of Maz Kanata, whatever it was. Because you know how after she gives the lightsaber to Finn, she kind of just disappears from the movie. There was other stuff she did after that, where she goes to Leia, right, and gives her the. Oh, okay, yeah, you've already heard it.
Well, I've seen that Mr. Sunday Movies video. Yeah,
and it's in the trailer. And there was also a whole bit cut out about how it actually, which I think they really needed to explain the state of the universe more, which is it explains the difference between the Republic and the Resistance, and that the Republic, the New Republic, and the Old Empire were fighting. They reached a stalemate. They made a truce. So the First Order is actually at peace with the Republic. I mean, it wouldn't be by the end of the movie because it blows up a whole bunch of planets. So the Resistance are actually people who support the Republic within First Order territory, which is kind of weird and kind of interesting. But
I thought I looked at it as, because I've seen it 3 times now, and I watched that General Hux speech more and more carefully now. And the way I think they explained it.
What he said, yeah.
No, I think that they explained and I remember because we talked about this in the podcast, about how it's not really talked about the politics of what the universe is in right now, and going back and watching it a 3rd time, I think it makes fairly sense. I looked at it as at least
it definitely needed it though. It definitely needed it.
I think if you really want to clear things up, but the way I looked at it, that doesn't kill the movie for you.
No,
because
of course not.
A lot
not
of people
kills the movie, but it certainly
but it's like a lot
needed.
of people will say, then because we don't care that Hosnian Prime blows up. I'm like, we didn't going back. If you go back and watch A New Hope for the first time, we weren't devastated that Alderaan blew up.
No.
Alderaan was really just there for them to be like, oh, they're the bad guys. I feel like that's what Hosnian Prime was, and if you want to know what the Republic is, I always looked at it as the Resistance is kind of a continuation of the Rebellion, in the same way the First Order is a continuation of the Empire. The Republic is the universe who backs the Resistance, who secretly backed the Resistance, because otherwise why would the First Order allow them? And so that's why the First Order figured out that the Resistance or the Republic was backing the Resistance. They had a fleet. They say that in the movie, the Republic fleet. And so the First Order was like, well, let's blow it up. Let's blow up Hosnian Prime to show we're serious. I think it's.
I mean, granted, they probably want to stay away from all the stuff, Senate meetings and all that.
Exactly. It's a very
but listen. Sure, you don't totally need it, but I think you need it more than you need. Killer octopuses attacking Han Solo.
I will
cut
give
that
you
out.
that. I will
put in a
you
scene
that.
Explaining that Princess Leia has fallen out of favor with the government and all that sort of stuff. Because that was in there too.
Point taken. Thank you. All right. So here's what you do. Here's what you do, Bandit. Right? They get on the freighter. There you go. They get on the freighter. Chewie, we're home. This is what happened with Luke. Yeah, you're right. That's what the Force is. That's all real. All right. Now let's go. All right.
Yeah, totally.
Let's go. What about the freighter? And then you just hear the Ranthars get loose. And don't worry about the freighter. And then they leave. They leave with the Falcon.
Yeah.
Boom.
Anyway, there were other deleted scenes, but I can't remember them. So those were the biggest sort of ones.
Well, I know there were some concepts, and I can't remember the concepts. My friend got the Art of the Force Awakens book, and it tells the story of how they developed the movie. And there was once a character that was like a Jedi hunter that developed into Kylo Ren. There was one chick named Talon, which sounds familiar. But I didn't realize that's where you got it from. But it was so when I looked at it in the book, and I was just like, hey, I was like, wait a minute, I call plagiarism.
No, Darth Talon was already a character before I put her in my thing.
I'm like, you call Force Awakens a rehash? I'll tell you what. No, but it was like it was a lot of cool concepts. You know what the original title of the movie was going to be, right? Like for a long time.
No, what was it going to be?
Shadow of the Empire.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, they should have kept it. That'd be so great. But then again, if you look at the movie and what the movie is about Rey and how the Force awakens in her. So it makes sense that is the title.
Actually, I do think Force Awakens is a bit better, because Shadow of the Empire, you hear that title and you think that means the Empire is still around, which in a way they are, but they're kind of not.
Yeah, I guess it is similar to Attack of the Clones, where you're just like, that's kind of more one part of the movie.
Yeah.
The clones do attack, that's more one part as opposed to like what Jeremy John said what a good title would be for episode 2 would be Shroud of the Dark Side, because the dark side is slowly encasing the Republic and whatever. But that's another side note. But I
definitely do buy the First Order as something separate and different from the Empire. You know, I get kind of like a North Korea sort of vibe from them.
Yeah, because Snoke is Plagueis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Plagueis is out there in the Outer Rim, and they talk about this, I think, in the novelization, about how the First Order came from, like, the remnants of the Empire in the Outer Rim. I'm like, well, that's where Snoke was. He just, or Plagueis, that's where Plagueis was, and he just established this new First Order, and they rose, and over 30 years they built this planet. They hauled out this planet. Okay, now, here's, I think, a cool title for Episode 8 would be. Episode 8, all right? I've had this idea of, like, how would you open Episode 8? And so me and my friends started talking about this on New Year's Eve because we're all nerds. And we said, okay, it's like Star Wars Episode 8, Heir to the Jedi, or whatever, or yeah, something like that, something of the Jedi, because that's what Rey is going to be, hopefully, unless they want us to do a switch on us. And then, like, the text crawl happens, and then we get a shot of that planet, that water planet of that Luke is on in at the end of Force Awakens. And then, because we want to anger fans even more, we get an overhead shot of a Star Destroyer. And then, it cuts to inside the Star Destroyer, and it's like, is it true Commander Skywalker is there? And it's Kylo Ren, but he has a new helmet. See, because he lost his other helmet on Starkiller. He has a new helmet. And his helmet is a refashioned version of the Vader helmet that he had of his grandfather. Right? So it's kind of, maybe it's kind of buffed up more, added some parts to it, but you can clearly see the burned Vader in there, right? Right? And so it's kind of them, and they attack the planet that Skywalker is on, and Rey's like, and Skywalker's like, Rey, you need to go. Our training is complete, but our training's not complete, but you need to leave. Now, and after that, our training is not complete, but you need to leave. And so they kidnap Skywalker, and Rey escapes to Leia, Finn, and Poe. And it's the story of it's them trying to go back and get Skywalker, and Rey tries to fight Kylo and loses because his training's not complete. And
so
that way,
Luke doesn't turn evil.
No.
Boo.
No, but listen. Now, this is going somewhere, okay?
Okay.
All right, and so the movie gets towards the end, and we reveal that Snoke is Darth Plagueis, and Kylo Ren, he killed his father, but his mother's still out there, right? She's the one with the Force. She still has the pull of the light side, so he is still feeling something, even though he thought he killed his father would do it. And so Snoke is sensing that Kylo Ren is not feeling it anymore, and so Kylo Ren is still feeling the pull of the light side. And so when Rey comes to fight Kylo, Snoke's in the room. This is kind of like Return of the Jedi. And so Kylo is now more trained. He's fully trained by Snoke. And so Rey and Kylo are fighting, and it's like an intense fight. It's like they're going at it, and then Rey loses, or Rey's about to lose, and Kylo and Snoke's like, do it, strike her down, or whatever, and Kylo's like, I can't, because he feels the Force. He feels the Force. He feels his mom, and then, Rey gets up, starts to strike down Kylo, and over there's Luke Skywalker, and Rey is being seduced by Snoke, and Rey kills Luke Skywalker.
Wow!
And that's how she turns to the dark side. And so now we have that
I don't
turn
want
point.
Rey to kill Luke.
I do. Can't
somebody else kill Luke?
No, that's how you do it. That's how you do it, because that's a mirror point. Return of the Jedi. Rey, Luke was going to kill Vader, but he's like I won't. But Rey did, because her training wasn't complete, and so now she's like she kills Luke, and now she is Snoke's apprentice. Rey is on the dark side. Kylo escapes with Finn and Poe, who's in the background somewhere fighting Benicio del Toro's character, who I guess could be Admiral Thrawn or whatever, and then they escape, and Kylo goes back to Leia. It's like, it's you helped me come back to the light side. And Kylo's like, And now it's like we need to fight. And the movie ends on a dark note. Luke Skywalker's dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Episode 8, Heir to the Empire. And it's not Rey, it's Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
I drop my mic as I walk away.
So who's Rey's family again?
Excuse me. I need a drink. She's Luke's daughter.
She is Luke's daughter.
And because the mom is dead, and that's why Luke Skywalker's up in that hill, because you see a gravestone next to him. Her mom, Mara Jade, has died.
Okay. So everyone, that's our official list for the Movie Mania podcast.
Yes.
Star Wars, Mad Max, Kingsman, Inside Out, The Martian, Creed, Steve Jobs, Ex Machina, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, and everyone's favorite Jurassic movie, Jurassic World.
Ugh. Ugh. I just died a little inside.
I'm so glad that that's in there to bother you.
God, that's so... I hate it so much. God, I'd rather put Genesis in there than Jurassic World. All right.
You had said that before, that would be Terminator Genesis right now. I should have tried to stitch up the voting by making Terminator Genesis number 1 on mine. So it has to be in there somewhere.
It'd be number 11. It'd be an honorable mention at best. No, okay, but that was this episode of Movie Mania. Thank you all for watching. Come back next week when we talk when we do an all listener question podcast. Because since we weren't able to do listener questions this week because this is going on for 2.5 hours. So. Yeah, sorry for that episode 8 pitch, guys. No, but so next week is going to be a very special all Q&A episode. We're going to take the questions that we got this week from you guys. Thank you all for the questions. We got a ton, and then we'll do some more questions that we'll ask next week. So come on, ask the questions and we will answer them.
Okay, guys, this is me. I'm just interrupting again. We changed our mind after we recorded this. We're not going to do an all listener questions one next week because we thought, what are we talking about? We did the best of 2015. Next week we have to do the worst of 2015. But we're going to limit it to just the top 3 worst movies of the year. We all know it's going to be Fantastic Four, right? It's definitely not going to be Terminator Genesis. You can be sure of that. I promise you it will not be number 1. Hopefully. So yeah, we're going to do top 3 worst 2015, but we're going to limit it to just 3 so that we have more time to make up for the questions that we couldn't do this episode. I'm rambling. Okay, cutting back.
Bandit, where can people find you?
The people can find me on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter as Bandit Incorporated, and they can find you.
And they can find me on the YouTubes, Twitters, Instagrams, and Facebooks, all at all at Trey White or Podcast Media. Also, be sure to like us and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Movie Mania Podcast. A lot of stuff to do. And also a special thanks to Milan Jeftik for the channel artwork. And once again, thank you guys all for this one. You guys are making this show do very, very well. So
recommend us to a friend too.
Yes, thank you. Recommend us to a friend. So, catch you all later, our Movie Maniacs.